Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the What If guy, back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Issei becomes Abbadon Lucifer. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Family. What is family? According to the dictionary, family is defined as a group of people who share a strong bond and live together as such. What is the purpose of family? It is the family's responsibility to promote the education of their children and teach them proper behavior in society. Many books define family in various ways, but when it comes to people, they will tell you similar things. There are many individuals in the world who understand the meaning of family. A father, a mother, a brother or sister who always provide love, affection, comfort, trust, and support, among many other things. Unfortunately, not everyone is fortunate enough to have that, and one of those individuals is Hayudu Issei. Issei is a charismatic, cheerful, loving, brave, and smiling boy. He has long brown hair, honey-colored eyes with golden flecks, lightly tanned skin, and a constant smile on his face. His father, Goro Hyoudou, his mother, Miki Hyoudou, and his twin sister, Naomi Hyoudou, form a loving and united family. They always showed great joy and love for their children. However, everything was about to change. Naomi, being Issei's twin, displayed remarkable intelligence and strength at a young age. She was talented both academically and physically. Her greatest achievement was awakening the boosted gear at the age of 5, where she became the host of the Red Dragon Emperor, known as Drake. Her parents were astonished. They never imagined their daughter would possess such a sacred artifact, especially one of great power. They were already familiar with the supernatural world as they were known as powerful holy magicians, but this revelation would lead to misfortune not for them and their daughter, but for their other son. Upon discovering that their daughter possessed the Welsh dragon, they immediately introduced her to the supernatural world, teaching her everything about where she came from, magic, and combat with weapons, among other things. However, this caused them to neglect little Issei, who, according to them, possessed nothing of significance. Therefore, they believed it was better not to involve him in the supernatural world and concealed the truth from him, instructing Naomi not to tell Issei anything. Naomi, being very close to Issei, felt immense pain from being separated from him due to her training, where their parents provided lessons that made Issei feel lonely. Seeing that his parents no longer paid attention to him deepened his sadness and solitude. In his search for their attention, Issei tried various methods, such as lowering his grades, getting into trouble, and disobeying them. However, nothing worked. He only received scoldings in return. As time passed, Issei no longer wore that smile on his face. His parents focused more on his sister, taking her to many places around the world, even leaving Issei alone on occasions. They never realized that Issei had a natural talent for soccer. Eventually, Issei began to distance himself from his parents, watching cooking videos and exploring various interests. He grew accustomed to the lack of affection from his family and sister, leading him down a path filled with distractions such as parties and tattoos. However, as the saying goes, when one door closes, another opens. For Issei, this was true. At a party, he met someone who would become a father figure to him and completely change his life, introducing him to the supernatural world. In the present, Issei often found himself lost in the shadows, seeking comfort in memories and finding solace in tears. He was a 16-year-old boy with long brown hair tied back, attractive golden eyes, and a slender build, standing shirtless to reveal his tattoos, wearing only violet metallic gloves. He stood outside in the city of Ko, gazing at the clear night sky filled with stars, searching for something significant. Suddenly, he noticed a silhouette of a woman descending from the sky, her 6 pairs of black wings gracefully folding as she landed. She inclined slightly while extending her hand in greeting. She was tall, around 25 years old, with blue hair that faded to white at the tips, a striking figure, and a noticeable presence. She asked him how his night was. Issei sighed, responding that it was calm and quiet, which helped him feel at peace. The woman informed him that she had come to gather information on Grigori, explaining that Azazel was only interested in the sacred gears for research purposes. Issei understood and asked her to continue monitoring their movements. The woman expressed her difficulty in entering without drawing Azazel's attention, apologizing for the challenge. Issei reassured her, saying it was understandable and that they would take everything slowly. She thanked him for being so considerate, feeling a warmth from his words. A comfortable silence enveloped them, not awkward but rather soothing. The woman felt a blush rise to her cheeks, touched by Issei's concern for her. She was willing to do anything for him, as he had given her a new purpose in life. In just 3 years of knowing him, she had become powerful. As Issei sensed their presence approaching, he knew he had to leave and asked if he could leave the rest to her. She agreed, reminding him to be cautious, as it was dangerous for them to discover who she was. He thanked her, smiling as he looked at her face, causing her to blush again. Issei then created a magic circle and vanished from the scene, leaving her behind. She remarked to herself that he seemed to be enjoying himself. As she turned around, she saw a massive pile of bodies and scattered remains around her. She thought to herself that this was not a warm-up for her. It amused her that he offered them a chance to live, but his ego was too inflated. A magical circle appeared in her hand as she cast a spell, causing the bodies to vanish. She gazed up at the sky, a small smile forming on her face. The time was approaching when he would make his presence known in the supernatural world, and everything would be turned upside down. With a sense of excitement, she spread her wings and took flight into the sky. The scene shifted to a brown-haired boy of 8 years old, wearing a white shirt and brown shorts, with messy long hair. Issei called out for his parents, but there was no response. He tried again, calling for his sister and mother, but still, no one answered. Feeling sad, he climbed the stairs, dropping a paper that had a picture of 4 people on it, labeled, "My Family." He thought to himself that it looked like he would be alone again that night, but he reassured himself that it wasn't the first time. Sitting on his bed with a soccer ball in hand, he decided it was best to get some sleep since tomorrow was the championship final. He hoped his mother would come to watch the game. The next morning, Issei was at the breakfast table, having cereal with milk. He resolved to call his mother. After finishing his breakfast, he walked over to the phone and hoped she would answer. When the voicemail picked up, he left a message reminding her about the soccer final and asking if she and his father could come at 1:30 p.m. He hung up the phone feeling disappointed. As the clock ticked closer to the game, Issei looked around for his parents, noticing many other children with theirs, all dressed for the occasion. He felt a pang of sadness. An older man, his coach, handed him a uniform, urging him to change. Issei complied, though reluctantly. The match began, and Issei sat on the bench, watching as the parents cheered for their children. The score was tied at 0-0, and with 10 minutes left, the coach called for Issei to enter the game. He took off his warm-up jacket and stepped onto the field, feeling the encouragement of his teammates. As he approached the spot for a free kick, one of his teammates handed him the ball. A serious-looking boy with blonde hair and blue eyes warned him not to mess up. Issei nodded, placing the ball on the ground and stepping back to prepare. Taking a deep breath, he sprinted toward the ball and struck it with all his might. The ball soared toward the opposing goal and landed in the net, scoring a spectacular goal. His teammates erupted in cheers, rushing to embrace him, though Issei remained quiet amidst the celebration. The match concluded with Issei's team crowned champions. While his teammates celebrated with their parents, Issei searched for his own, feeling a mix of joy and sorrow. As he received his gold medal and the award for best player, tears filled his eyes, not tears of happiness, but of bitterness. Despite the congratulations and playful teasing from his friends, he struggled to smile. After the festivities, Issei walked home, ignoring the world around him, still clutching his trophy. Once inside, he dashed to his room, slamming the door behind him and collapsing onto his bed. With his trophy in hand, he let out a frustrated scream. In a fit of anger, he threw the trophy against the wall, shattering it in two. He buried his face in his hands, allowing the tears to flow. In a spacious 2-story house, a faint purple light appeared in one of the rooms, revealing Issei. With a wave of his hand, he erased all traces of magical energy. He then removed his clothes until he was completely bare and headed to the bathroom to wash himself before returning to bed. Meanwhile, in the living room, another magical glow emerged, revealing three figures: a man and woman in their 30s and a 16-year-old girl. The girl, Naomi, was strikingly beautiful and well-developed for her age. She expressed her relief that everything was finally over. Her mother, Miki, smiled gently, assuring her that she could now rest. The father, Goruo, expressed pride in his daughter's strength. Naomi reminded them to keep quiet as her brother was sleeping upstairs, causing her parents to lower their heads in embarrassment. Miki urged Naomi to go to bed, noting that tomorrow would be her first day at the academy. Goruo nodded in agreement, encouraging her to get some rest. The next morning would be Naomi's first day, and she said her goodbyes before heading to her room. In their room, Goru expressed his pride in their daughter, marveling at her ability to perform high-level magical spells. Miki shared in his happiness but felt a pang of sadness and regret. She glanced at her husband, knowing that they had not been the best parents to Issei. Goru acknowledged their shortcomings, stating that they could still make things right and support Issei, even if he wasn't a magician like them. He would always be proud of him. Miki's voice trembled as she reflected on their absence over the past 10 years. She realized she didn't even know Issei's favorite food or if he had friends. Overwhelmed with emotion, she lamented her shortcomings as a mother, recalling how her own mother had taught her that love for a child should be equal. Goru comforted her, reminding her that they had made their choices to protect Issei, especially considering that his sister was the Hyoudou, a powerful figure in their world. Now that she was strong and no longer needed training, they could finally be there for Issei. Miki expressed her desire to spend time with her son, wanting to do all the things a mother does, like shopping for clothes and teaching him about girls. Goru encouraged her, and they decided to get some rest. Meanwhile, Naomi, Issei's sister, overheard their conversation and felt guilty. She believed that if it weren't for her, Issei would have experienced the love of caring parents and a sister. Training and studies had kept her from being there for him, and time was limited. Draig, her dragon partner, tried to lift her spirits, reminding her that her strength was necessary for her goals. Naomi acknowledged her feelings of regret, wishing she could change the past. Draig teased her, but she brushed it off, determined to protect her brother from any danger. She was aware of the threats in the city and was resolute in her commitment to keep Issei safe. The next morning, the Hyoudou family rose early for Issei and Naomi's first day at Ko Academy, where they would enter their second year. The academy was known for its reputation, attracting boys primarily for the purpose of dating or forming harems. It was one of the most prestigious schools in Japan. As the family prepared, Miki went to the kitchen to make breakfast, eager to connect with her son. She was pleasantly surprised to find Issei already awake, sitting in a chair with a cup of coffee and his phone in hand. When he acknowledged her, he mentioned he was just having breakfast. Miki expressed her disappointment that he hadn't waited for her to prepare the meal, but Issei insisted he was fine and needed to leave early for something important. Miki tried to persuade him to wait, wanting to have breakfast together as a family, but Issei was already on his way out. She felt a pang of sadness, realizing he was becoming self-sufficient. As he left, she went back to the kitchen to finish preparing breakfast, unaware of the tattoos on his arms. Naomi and Goru came down from the second floor and noticed Miki's troubled expression. They asked where Issei was, and Miki explained what had happened. Goru reassured her that Issei was growing up and it was normal for him to take care of himself. Miki felt she should have prepared breakfast for everyone, but Goru encouraged her to focus on their meal together. The family sat down for breakfast, but Naomi couldn't shake her worries about her brother, hoping he wasn't getting involved in any romantic relationships. Meanwhile, Issei sat in a plaza, engrossed in his phone. He noticed footsteps approaching and saw two people sit down beside him. The brown-haired boy and another person stood nearby. Two voices spoke, one feminine and the other masculine. The brown-haired boy lifted his gaze to see a man with white hair, a star-shaped scar on his eye, and striking blue eyes, along with a ponytail. The other was a beautiful brown-haired woman with green eyes and an elegant figure, wearing a white coat. The brown-haired boy greeted them calmly, acknowledging Alan and Chisato. Chisato mentioned that she was doing better than before, and Alan commented on the beauty of the city. Curiously, he asked why they were there and why Chisato was with him. With a sigh, he began to explain what had happened. Upon arriving at the academy, the Hyoudou family was surprised by the number of students, especially the noticeable majority of girls. Naomi, using her dragon sense of smell, easily located her brother. She walked toward him, finding him resting in the shade of a tree. As she approached to speak, she noticed something on his arm that left her momentarily speechless. Naomi informed Issei that their parents were waiting for them at the gym entrance. He opened his eyes, sighed, and stood up. Naomi pointed out the mark on his arm, prompting him to roll up his sleeve and reveal a tattoo. He explained that he had gotten the tattoos when he was 14. Naomi, surprised, asked why he had done it, to which he shrugged, indicating there was nothing more to it. As they walked, Naomi couldn't help but notice how attractive her twin brother was, which annoyed her since he was drawing attention from many girls. Once inside the gym, they took their seats, surrounded by students, with their parents watching from the back. Several teachers took the stage, including a brown-haired woman with glasses and green eyes, a black-haired woman with brown eyes, and a short-haired redhead. An adult man stood beside the microphone, welcoming everyone back to Ko Academy and encouraging students to strive for improvement. After the director spoke, a black-haired girl with violet eyes introduced herself as Sona Shirtorai, the student council president. She announced new teachers, including a serious woman named Suki, who would be the history teacher, and a cheerful redhead named Eriko Takeda, the literature teacher. Finally, a light brown-haired girl with green eyes introduced herself as Chisato Hasegawa, the new school nurse. Many boys cheered, except for Issei, who appeared uninterested. Sona returned to the microphone to announce the top students from the first and second cycles who would read a speech based on their exam scores. Naomi prepared to present her academic achievements, confident in her high grades. A blond boy beside her also readied himself, knowing he might not be among the top 3 but still eager to try. Sona opened an envelope and called for the top student. Silence filled the room as she read the name, and after a moment, she called for Hyoudou Issei to come forward. The atmosphere was tense as everyone turned to see a brown-haired boy with long hair and a ponytail walking to the front. Many girls blushed at his good looks, though he seemed indifferent to the attention. Naomi was shocked that her brother had come in first. While she knew he was smart, he rarely showed it, yet she felt proud of him. On stage, Sona couldn't help but blush as she locked eyes with Issei. He took the microphone and introduced himself, stating his name confidently. The scene shifted to a 14-year-old Issei in his messy room, boxes scattered on the floor. He rubbed his eyes, stood up, and walked to the door, heading downstairs to the kitchen. There, he found a note that he crumpled and tossed into the trash without reading. He muttered to himself about not caring and opened the refrigerator to grab some eggs, preparing to make scrambled eggs for himself. Issei Hyoudou settled into his chair, ready to take control of his day. He found himself watching Dragon Ball Z, losing track of time as he enjoyed the show. After a while, he finished his meal, changed into his school uniform, and began walking to school. On the way, he noticed other children happily walking with their parents, which made him grimace at the sight. He arrived at school and joined the line where everyone was singing the anthem. Hours passed, and Issei spent his time drawing and playing games like tic-tac-toe with his classmates, careful not to attract the teacher's attention. When the bell rang, he was the first in line to head home. Upon arriving home, Issei went straight to his room and closed the door behind him. He lay down on his bed, ready to rest, but before he could close his eyes, someone knocked on his door. Reluctantly, he got up to answer it and found 2 boys his age waiting outside. Brian, with his dark skin, black hair, and piercings, stood alongside Johnny, who was slightly taller with lighter skin and a rose tattoo on his hand. Brian asked if Issei was going to the party that night. Issei sighed but confirmed he would attend, asking what time it started. Johnny informed him it would kick off at 9:30 p.m. and advised him to bring something in case things got lively. Classes had begun at Ko Academy just 2 months prior, and during that time, the Hyoudou siblings had become quite popular due to their personalities and skills. Naomi Hyoudou was considered exceptionally beautiful by her peers, captivating many with her charisma and kindness. She was not only one of the smartest newcomers but also excelled in sports, quickly making a name for herself in the kendo club with her impressive reflexes and strength. Despite her popularity, she had turned down over 50 suitors from upper classes and first-year students alike. Issei Hyoudou, on the other hand, was described by many girls as the perfect man. His kindness and charming smile won the hearts of many. He dressed elegantly, showcasing his intelligence that far surpassed his sisters. Teachers were fascinated by his thought processes and problem-solving skills. In sports, he also stood out, particularly in football, where his skills left many in awe. His impressive physique, adorned with tattoos, drew attention, often causing a fluster among those who admired him. The Hyoudou family was surprised by Issei's talent, never expecting him to excel in sports. This realization led his parents to regret their previous indifference, especially his father, who had never played football with him. However, they hoped to reconnect with their son, even if it proved challenging. Issei had spent most of the past 2 months in his room, training or studying, often brushing off his parents' attempts to bond with him. He had grown accustomed to being alone, having lived without the love of a mother and father for so long. When the twins' 17th birthday approached, their parents planned a celebration for Issei, who had never had a party before. They had always celebrated Naomi's birthday, but Issei's was overlooked. They spoke with Naomi, who was eager to help, but they realized they knew little about Issei's preferences. They decided to prepare a meal they thought he would enjoy, but when the time came, Issei didn't even realize it was his birthday. To him, it was just another ordinary day. He greeted his sister, who was taken aback by his indifference. In a panic, their parents urged everyone to sit down for dinner, announcing it was Issei's birthday. Issei simply remarked that the meal was what Naomi liked, expressing his preference for lasagna instead and mentioning his allergy. His response left his parents disheartened and Naomi feeling disappointed. The parents felt guilty for not knowing their son better, but they were determined not to give up easily. A beautiful chestnut-haired girl was discussing trivial matters with Chisato. She acknowledged the situation that had occurred, responding to the chestnut-haired boy who simply nodded in agreement. Chisato then took a small bandage and began to wrap the boy's arm. It was unusual for him to get hurt over something so simple. After all, he was not someone easy to injure. She asked him if he had heard anything about her. He sighed and replied that it was irrelevant. He inquired if there was any news about the demons. Chisato, sitting with her legs crossed and holding a cup, informed him that nothing significant had come up yet. According to Penemu and Calawarn, it was clear that Azazel was forming an alliance with both demons and angels. He understood and asked about the Cow's Brigade. Chisato replied that they were still keeping themselves hidden. Just as they were about to share a moment, there was a knock at the door, causing them to pull back slightly. Chisato suggested it would be better to postpone their moment for later. The door opened to reveal a blonde boy named Kiba Yuto, a member of the Occult Research Club. He asked if Issei was present. Issei stood up and asked what he needed. Kiba politely requested that Issei accompany him to the club. The chestnut-haired boy nodded and followed Kiba outside, where they met his sister. The three walked in deep silence. Kiba was nervous under Naomi's gaze, while Issei was busy typing on his phone. When they reached their destination, Kiba knocked on the door, and a voice from the other side invited them in. Inside, they saw a stunning red-haired woman, a black-haired girl with a generous figure, and an albino girl sitting on a chair. On the other side of the desk were two black-haired women wearing glasses. One had a well-developed and beautiful body, while the other, though not as endowed, was still attractive. There was also a white-haired woman and a chestnut-haired girl with braids. Naomi recognized the group in front of her as the heirs of the Citri and Gremory clans. Rius welcomed Kiba and acknowledged the guests he had brought. Kiba calmly introduced them, and Rius thanked him, inviting him to sit. However, Naomi interrupted, stating that she already knew who Rius Gremory was, as well as the others present. Issei observed the exchange, feeling somewhat bored. Rius noted that this made things easier and expressed her desire to speak with the two girls, as well as Sona. Naomi inquired about the topic of discussion, already having an idea in mind. Sona asked if they believed in the supernatural. Issei, confused, asked what she meant. Rius attempted to clarify, but Naomi interrupted, ordering Issei to leave with her. She took his arm to guide him out, but before they could exit, Naomi felt a sudden surge of energy coursing through her body. Sona addressed Issei, asking him a question. Naomi insisted that she would handle the situation and pushed her brother toward the exit, closing the door behind them. Once outside, Naomi turned to Issei and demanded to know what the demons wanted. Issei walked calmly, his hands in his pockets, aware that his sister was dealing with a matter involving demons. He wondered if she would reveal her true identity to them. As he made his way to the rooftop, he felt uneasy, as if someone was watching him. He sighed, reflecting that sometimes life felt meaningless. Just then, his phone began to ring. He answered, confirming that they had found her and asked if she was there. Interesting. Prepare the team, I have spoken to Chisato and the others. In 2 days, we will attack the Association of Magicians. The atmosphere was heavy, suffocating for ordinary people. In front of the demons in charge of the academy stood the current Sekirei, Naomi Hyoudou. She was an incredibly beautiful, friendly, and smiling girl, but she was also very passive. Naomi tried to avoid violence and could be considered a pacifist. However, at that moment, she was filled with anger. It was rare for her to feel this way, but now someone had touched her most sensitive nerve, her beloved brother. Since she was 5 years old, when she trained with her parents after discovering she was the bearer of the Red Dragon, her parents had distanced themselves from her brother, focusing all their attention on her. She felt guilty and hated seeing her brother alone, but her training had kept her from being with him, despite their close bond. This motivated her to set a goal, to protect her brother from any threat, training to the point of breaking her bones. Rius suggested they relax a bit, and Sona agreed, knowing that if they fought now, they wouldn't be able to harm anyone, even as a team. Naomi lowered her aura, causing all the demons to relax. Rius asked Naomi why she didn't want to be part of her noble house and why her brother should remain unaware of the supernatural. After Issei had left, Naomi revealed herself to the demons as the current Sekirei and a Dragon King class. Both Rius and Sona were surprised. Rius had asked if Naomi wanted to join her noble house, but she had declined, stating she would never be anyone's subordinate. When Sona mentioned her brother, Naomi's frustration flared. Naomi firmly stated that she served no one. Rius, trying to understand, asked why Naomi hadn't approached her if she knew about the supernatural. Naomi explained that her parents had made a deal with Lucifer, but apparently, he hadn't informed Rius. Rius was surprised to hear that her brother hadn't mentioned anything. Naomi expressed her annoyance, and Sona asked if she could pose a question. When Naomi agreed, Sona inquired why she didn't want her brother to know about the supernatural, noting that everyone in her family was aware except for Issei. Naomi explained that Issei didn't possess magic or sacred gears, making it too dangerous for him to enter the supernatural world while being so vulnerable. That was why she protected him. Rius understood, acknowledging that Issei would be defenseless. Sona agreed, and Rius decided she needed to talk to her brother about not informing her of this situation, as well as the deal he made with Naomi's parents. Naomi suggested that they all accompany her to the underworld to resolve the matter, but Rius insisted that it was Issei's fault for not informing her. Naomi proposed that they all go together to avoid misunderstandings. With that, Naomi dispelled the barrier and left the club, heading straight home. Upon arriving, she saw her brother sitting on the couch, engrossed in his phone while sipping tea. She always enjoyed watching him. They hadn't had the chance to share moments as children, but now things were different. Days passed, and the day for the meeting with the demons arrived. To the dismay of their parents, plans for a family weekend had to be cancelled due to the irresponsibility of the Mao. The matriarch of the Hayudu family had to lie to her son again, telling him they would be gone until Sunday night. Issei merely shrugged, indifferent to their plans, and they departed for the underworld. We see a brown-haired boy kneeling at the edge of a building, gazing at the beautiful city illuminated by the moonlight. Several silhouettes appeared behind him, but he continued to admire the view. He asked if everyone was ready, receiving confirmation from a male voice. He turned to face the group, which consisted of 5 individuals: an elegant albino boy with blue eyes, a long-haired boy with a spear, a beautiful woman with blue hair, and a brown-haired boy in full armor except for his head. The brown-haired boy approached the small group and stood in front of a girl with orange hair. He requested to see all the information they had gathered, and she complied. After a brief moment, he began to walk towards the group, who followed behind him. He declared that the mission would begin as a blue aura surrounded him, causing the entire group to vanish from the location. In the underworld, the Gremory castle came into view as Rius Gremory and her entourage, along with the Hyudus, arrived. The castle doors opened, revealing a stunning silver-haired woman, Graphia Lucifuge, the queen and wife of Serchest Lucifer, the strongest queen in the underworld. She welcomed them and guided the Hyudus through the castle. As they walked, the Hyoudou family remained silent, not exchanging a word. They eventually entered an office where a red-haired man in his 20s with blue eyes awaited them. He introduced himself as Serchest Gremory, the current Mao Lucifer, with a slight bow. Mickey greeted him respectfully, expressing her pleasure at seeing him again. Goro was pleased to see Naomi again, and he greeted her with a serious and respectful demeanor. Naomi returned the sentiment, acknowledging the presence of Mao Lucifer and Serchest with a similar seriousness. She suggested they skip the formalities and simply call Serchest by his name, to which he agreed, but Naomi wanted to address the matter at hand. She pointed out that Serchest had not fulfilled the agreement they had arranged. Her urgency stemmed from a desire to spend at least one day with her brother, but her words caused the Mao to adopt a serious expression. Serchest instructed everyone to take a seat, his tone grave. In the human world, there were signs of chaos, with bodies scattered around. A man in armor stood with a glowing left eye, accompanied by a group of 5 individuals. Issei took charge, ordering the group to prepare for action. They quickly moved away from the scene, with an albino figure standing beside a brown-haired companion, both ready for what lay ahead. Meanwhile, in another location, 4 figures stood before the entrance of a building. A girl with orange hair declared her intention to start the chaos while donning a mask. The armored figure began moving south, followed closely by another with a spear. A blue-haired girl, masked and determined, decided she would take action as well. Flames enveloped her fists, and she launched a series of fiery attacks at the door, creating a massive explosion that alerted everyone nearby. A small group of mages soon surrounded the girls, demanding to know who they were and asserting that the area was off-limits. The blue-haired girl responded with a smirk, dismissing their authority. The mages pressed for answers, but the girl simply introduced herself as Kay, while another chimed in as Lise. In the southern area, the battle had already begun. The armored man moved through the mages with ease, his glowing eye and a strange red energy surrounding him. One mage, terrified, questioned his identity, while another urged their comrades to keep attacking. However, before he could finish his sentence, a spear pierced his chest. The remaining mages attempted to fight back, but the armored figure evaded their attacks effortlessly. One mage ordered reinforcements and instructed someone to inform the director of the situation. In a dark place, specifically in a cell, a figure sat chained to a chair. The moonlight illuminated her features, revealing dark skin and a hood that obscured most of her face, except for her lips. As she opened her eyes, they glowed a deep crimson, and a smile spread across her face. The Golden Dawn was an association of mages where the most talented from both the human and supernatural worlds gathered. However, it had now become a battlefield. The 4 invaders, 2 men and 2 women, wreaked havoc, destroying the place and eliminating anyone who dared to confront them. Inside an office, a man with long hair and a beard arrived after being informed of the chaos. Horrified by the massacre of his students and friends, he realized he had no time to waste. He quickly created a barrier to prevent anyone from escaping and to heal the injured. After completing his task, he rushed to the cells, relieved to find them intact. However, he remained cautious, knowing the danger that lurked within. Just as he was about to set up a barrier, a voice stopped him. The voice belonged to an albino boy clad in strange armor, holding a spear, accompanied by another boy with long brown hair wearing a mask. The director demanded to know who they were and what they sought in the place. The brown-haired boy assured him they were there to rescue someone for the greater good. The director clenched his fists in anger, questioning how they could justify the lives they had taken. The boy replied calmly, suggesting that the director would never understand. The director countered, emphasizing the loss of innocent lives due to their actions. The albino boy responded, challenging the notion of innocence, arguing that those outside were corrupt, having committed heinous acts that destroyed the lives of truly innocent people. The director was taken aback, insisting that such claims were false. All those young people were still growing and he defended them. The brown-haired one responded, stating that the director was clearly lying, as his eyes told a different story. He insisted that the director knew the truth but was unwilling to admit it. Before the director's downfall, he revealed that they were part of the Chaos Brigade, which left the director in shock. He was aware of the group's intentions, and the thought of his acquaintances being involved left a bitter taste in his mouth. The director whispered in disbelief, unable to accept the truth. The brown-haired one continued, stating that he had no reason to lie and shifted the conversation to the main issue. The director, serious now, asked what he was looking for. The brown-haired one revealed that he was after a person and the information he needed. The mage prepared himself, summoning 2 magical circles from his hands, while the white-haired man also took a defensive stance, though he was momentarily stunned by the brown-haired one's words. The brown-haired one demanded the key to infinity, which startled the director, who questioned how he knew of its existence. The brown-haired one cryptically stated that he knew many things. The director felt a surge of panic. It was impossible for someone so young to know about the key. He could count on one hand the number of people aware of it, as it was created by Merlin, just like the book that held many secrets. The mage increased his power to the maximum, knowing he couldn't leave these dangerous individuals alive, especially since they knew such a secret. Just as he was about to attack, the white-haired man appeared in front of him, delivering a powerful blow to his stomach that sent him crashing to the ground. The mage glanced at Riva and saw the white-haired man holding a spear. In the moonlight, he noticed chains nearby. Suddenly, he heard footsteps and turned to the side, where something shocked him. From the shadows emerged a woman with dark skin, pointed ears, blood-red eyes, and blonde hair, clad in a type of armor. The director weakly uttered a question while staring at the woman, who smiled at him. She ordered them to stop wasting time and suggested they head to the basement. In the Gremry castle of the underworld, Serchest apologized for his mistake. Goru acknowledged that it wasn't a grave error, but it had caused significant issues. Mickey urged them to prioritize matters like this more seriously. Serchest assured them he understood and would take care of it. During a meeting with the Mao and the Hyoudou family, they discussed the Crimson Satan's failure to inform his sister about the presence of mages in the city. They reached an agreement where Serchest would provide support and take them as allies, as long as Naomi, the current Security, assisted Rius with her arranged engagement. Rius felt relieved upon hearing this, as it meant she wouldn't have to marry the heir of the Phoenix clan. She recognized Naomi's strength from her display of power. However, Naomi would serve as a backup since the Mao had everything resolved. Rius expressed her gratitude, and Naomi confirmed that a deal was a deal. Gora reminded Naomi to get along with Rius now that they were allies, but Naomi was interrupted by her mother. Mickey pointed out that the recruitment deal was not initiated by her brother, casting a dangerous glance at the Mao, who grew nervous. Naomi hoped to get along with Rius and reminded her of their earlier conversation. Rius acknowledged this with gratitude as they clasped hands in a gesture of friendship and alliance. Serchest then offered for them to stay for dinner, but Mickey politely declined. Serchest insisted, saying it was a compensation for the earlier incident, and Goru agreed to stay. Reluctantly, Naomi accepted, eager to return to her brother Issei. In the human world, four individuals stood before a small pillar that held a key surrounded by a powerful barrier. The brown-haired one asked the man to remove the barrier. The director flatly refused. The brown-haired one sighed and explained that he could break the barrier himself, but it would mean the entire school would be destroyed. He urged the director to consider that the quicker they acted, the fewer people would suffer. With no other option, the director deactivated the barrier. The elven woman approached the key, taking it in her hands and smiling. The brown-haired one declared that he now had a peace. The white-haired man, acting as the leader, ordered a retreat. The brown-haired one agreed, stating they had nothing more to do there and thanked the director for his cooperation as they began to walk away with the elven woman and the white-haired man. As they departed, the man began to chant an incantation, unleashing a powerful spell that formed an imposing golden dragon, which surged toward the three individuals, striking them directly. The man was breathing heavily, having exhausted all his magical power, but unfortunately for him, it was not over. Suddenly, he saw the mist dissipate, and to his astonishment, the albino and the other two were completely unharmed. The elven woman, filled with anger, expressed her frustration, stating that they had spared his life, and this was how he repaid them. In a swift motion, she lunged at him, grabbing him by the neck and unleashing a flurry of strikes that left him reeling. She disfigured his face and broke his legs, leaving him incapacitated. The serious brown-haired man ordered her to finish him off. With a fierce smile, the woman beheaded the mage, killing him instantly. As the leader began to walk away, voices echoed in the air, announcing that they could not let anyone leave. One voice, calm yet firm, expressed regret, while another, filled with fury, insisted that escape was impossible. The brown-haired man looked up to see two figures, and he smiled beneath his mask, asking what they were doing there. One of them replied that he was there to help a friend, while the other mentioned he was just passing through. The brown-haired man recognized them as Tobio and McGregor. Tobio had black hair, an elegant suit, and honey-colored eyes, while McGregor had white hair and light eyes, dressed in a jacket that revealed his physique. At the main entrance, another figure appeared alongside the two women, introducing himself as the Pawn of Surchest Gremory, accompanied by a Knight of Surchest. The scene shifted to a bathroom where a beautiful brown-haired woman emerged from the shower, wrapping herself in a green towel before heading to her bedroom. Once there, she changed and made her way to the kitchen, where she found a stunning woman with black hair and red eyes, sitting and sipping a glass of wine while holding a small photograph. The brown-haired woman sat beside her and remarked on the year since a significant loss, receiving a nod in response. She then inquired whether Issei-kun was already attacking, to which the brown-haired woman confirmed that it had begun. The conversation turned to love, with the brown-haired woman, Chisato, asking Penemu if she believed in it. Penemu raised an eyebrow, curious about the question. Chisato reflected on how long it had been since someone called her by her true name, adding a touch of humor to the moment. The dialogue shifted to a knight of Mao, who questioned the presence of a powerful knight in their midst, maintaining a calm demeanor despite the tension. Nikita, another character, noted that the knight did not seem tense and expressed surprise at her appearance, asking if reinforcements had been called. The knight confirmed that they had, and with a playful challenge, they prepared for battle, creating a sword of light. Meanwhile, in the south, a black-haired man wielding a spear was engaged in a fierce duel with a pawn of Surchest Lucifer. The armored figure watched from a distance, observing the intense fight. The spear wielder executed a cut that grazed the shoulder of his opponent, who narrowly dodged another move. The black-haired man remained relaxed, taunting his adversary, while the pawn of Surchest struggled to regain his footing. In another part of the building, McGregor sensed an unusual aura emanating from an opponent, one that was calm yet foreboding. He understood that such tranquility often signified danger. His companion, the white-haired man, also felt the same unsettling presence. They were aware that the individuals before them posed a significant threat, having the audacity to attack one of the most important schools in both the supernatural and human worlds. Tibio found himself regretting not having accompanied Lavinia or one of the other girls. He never expected to encounter such chaos when Azazel had requested something important. As he entered and saw the aftermath of the battle, he immediately set out to find those responsible. After meeting McGregor and learning about the situation, he decided to assist, knowing Azazel had faith in his allies. Suddenly, a calm voice interrupted their thoughts, causing Tobio and McGregor to assume battle stances. Karna, the speaker, offered to entertain himself while McGregor dealt with the other guest. As Karna began to envelop himself in flames, he revealed a new appearance that surprised both Tobio and McGregor. Karna assured them that he would take care of the situation, and with that, he and McGregor vanished, leaving Tobio in shock as he prepared for whatever came next. Tobio observed the calm demeanor of the elf beside him, unaware that the woman was no longer present. He questioned how his opponent had managed to conceal his magic. The response was that a magician never reveals his secrets, except for that masked individual who had exposed many tricks to the public, a thought that stirred annoyance within him. Tobio felt underestimated for being merely human, reminding his opponent that he could still deliver surprises. The elf acknowledged this but vanished, reappearing behind Tobio, challenging him to do more to impress him. As he unsheathed his sword, Tobio turned to see a black wolf at his side, standing tall. This wolf was none other than his sacred gear, an independent avatar known as Cain's Lycaon, one of the 13 Longinus. Tobio felt a surge of nervousness as he noticed a powerful dragon emerge behind his opponent. Meanwhile, in a quiet place where only the wind could be heard, two figures stood. One was an albino clad in a type of armor, and the other was McGregor. Karna inquired about their location, to which McGregor replied that they were outside the building, courtesy of his leader. Karna pressed for details about the magic used, but McGregor refused to answer. Before McGregor could speak again, Karna appeared before him, striking with his spear. The impact forced McGregor to stumble back, but he quickly regained his composure and unleashed a series of magical attacks. The albino adeptly blocked each one while advancing toward McGregor, who narrowly dodged Karna's direct assault. A magical circle appeared beneath Karna, leading to a massive explosion of fire. As the flames dissipated, McGregor was taken aback by the sight of Karna, unharmed, who then made a sweeping motion with his spear to extinguish the fire. Karna remarked that his opponent had the look of a proud warrior fighting to protect something. As he prepared to attack, McGregor beckoned him to come forward. With incredible speed, Karna charged at McGregor, who swiftly evaded the attack and conjured several magical spells to counter. Karna shielded himself with 2 rings at his side, absorbing the impact of the spells. In the sky, Karna raised his hand, summoning a multitude of swords above McGregor, who was caught off guard and quickly shielded himself with magical circles. Karna clenched his fists, directing all the swords toward McGregor, who was astonished by Karna's destructive power. As Karna focused on his opponent, a massive magical circle formed in the sky, unleashing a powerful flame that surged toward the albino. Karna called out the name of his attack as his spear glowed a reddish hue, launching it forward. The 2 attacks collided, resulting in a tremendous explosion. McGregor began to approach Karna, who lay on the ground, fixated on him. Meanwhile, Tobio and the brown-haired elf were locked in a fierce battle, causing destruction all around them. The one known as Slag Dog was the only one attacking, which frustrated him immensely, while his opponent effortlessly dodged every strike, displaying remarkable skill without breaking a sweat. Jin, Tobio's shadow companion, struggled to catch the elusive figure, who vanished at incredible speed. The brown-haired elf taunted Tobio, stating that he was too slow and that it was disheartening to see him attempt to land a hit. Tobio, feeling the pressure, inquired whether Jin used his magical power to transform into a shadow. The elf explained that Jin belonged to a type of sacred gear known as Longinus, which allowed him to shift into shadows. Tobio found this intriguing, but his frustration grew as he felt his opponent was merely toying with him. The elf sarcastically applauded Tobio for finally realizing the truth, asserting that he was a dangerous individual, which compelled him to take the fight seriously. As darkness enveloped the brown-haired elf, a chant echoed around him, celebrating the demise of countless foes. His body became shrouded in darkness, revealing a portion of his torso covered in black armor. Tobio charged at him, but the elf vanished once more, extending his right hand. Tobio sustained numerous cuts across his body, causing him to fall to the ground. Yet, Tobio rose again as the elf turned and walked toward him, commenting on how much longer Tobio could endure. In his pocket, he held a small sphere that began to form in his hand. The 2 fighters, one wielding a spear and the other a sword, continued to exchange blows at an incredible speed. The spear wielder executed quick zigzag movements, attempting to find the blind spot of the swordsman, who blocked every attack. With a swift motion, Okita charged at her opponent, but the black-haired fighter countered with his spear, leading to a fierce struggle between them. Okita acknowledged her opponent's skill, calling it a waste of talent, to which he responded with gratitude, indicating that they were merely playing. Their gazes locked, hands poised on their weapons, and in an instant, they vanished, exchanging strikes with their blades. Okita expressed her surprise at the impressive display of skill, while her opponent chuckled in response, lamenting the situation. It wasn't enough, Okita thought, as small scratches appeared on her mask and blood began to seep out. Okita remarked that she was good, but not exceptionally so. The woman responded with uncertainty, and Okita's eyes widened in shock as a deep cut tore through her upper garment, revealing a large scar. The woman then lunged at Okita with a lance of light, delivering a powerful strike across her chest and sending her flying with a Spartan-style kick. As Okita soared through the air, the woman appeared behind her and delivered a kick to her back, the sound of cracking bones echoing throughout the area. Okita was propelled upward while the woman spread her wings and ascended into the sky, enveloping her fists in sacred aura before delivering a crushing blow that slammed Okita into the ground. The woman descended, creating a sword of light, and declared that she would demonstrate one of her abilities as a sign of respect. Okita was astonished, wondering if the woman had even more skills. Behind her, several magical circles formed, summoning multiple swords. The woman aimed her sword at Okita, and all the swords of light were directed toward her. In a desperate attempt to evade the attack, Okita began to drag herself away. A massive explosion erupted in the area, and the woman commented that she might have gone too far as she turned and walked away. Beside her appeared a woman with orange hair, who scolded her for nearly causing harm with such a technique. The woman apologized, explaining that she had gotten a bit too excited. With a sigh, she suggested they return to their leader. Meanwhile, Okita lay injured, with visible bones protruding and struggling to breathe. In another part of the battlefield, Cao Cao was engaged in an exciting fight with a dark-haired mage, dodging several moves. Cao Cao expressed his desire to leave, while the mage insisted on continuing the fight against worthy opponents. Determined, Cao Cao prepared to end the confrontation, storing his lance in a magical circle and snapping his fingers. He summoned Durandal, the peerless sword, which appeared in his right hand, surprising Enku. Cao Cao declared that it was time to finish things, slicing through the air and creating a rift. Enku quickly unleashed flames toward the attack, attempting to counter it, but the mage's strike evaporated the flames effortlessly. The rift began to pull Enku in, and despite his efforts to resist, he slipped and fell into the portal, resulting in a massive explosion as he was flung out. Cao Cao sheathed his sword in a magical circle and sighed, his eyes returning to normal. He suggested they return to their leader, and both began walking toward the building. In the school courtyard, McGregor was launching various elemental magical attacks at Karna, who effortlessly blocked them with his lance. McGregor thought to himself that Karna was highly skilled in both magical and hand-to-hand combat. Taking advantage of the moment, Karna appeared behind McGregor and struck him powerfully with his lance, sending him crashing to the ground. McGregor quickly turned and retaliated with several magical spells, but Karna easily deflected them with his lance, waiting for McGregor to regain his footing. McGregor insisted that Karna should surrender, claiming that he controlled the space they were in. Karna, unimpressed, questioned McGregor's confidence, asserting that the location did not guarantee victory. As McGregor prepared to unleash a series of magical circles that left no escape, he asked Karna if he would yield. When he received no response, he expressed disappointment. The magical attacks surged toward Karna, but instead of fear, he maintained a neutral expression. Suddenly, McGregor halted, shocked to see all his magical attacks dissipating, leaving only Karna, who regarded him with a cold stare. Noticing that Karna had his hands closed around a necklace, McGregor questioned how this was possible, retreating in disbelief. Karna remarked on McGregor's overconfidence, leaving the mage stunned. The serious albino declared that he was the nightmare of wizards. As he finished his statement, he launched himself toward the mage with incredible speed. McGregor quickly created several magical circles, preparing to unleash various spells against the albino. However, the albino merely raised his hand, where a glowing necklace began to shine, causing McGregor's attacks to vanish into thin air. Upon reaching the mage, who wore a shocked expression at the sight of his failed spells, Karna showed no mercy and began to strike at McGregor with his spear. The moves targeted his abdomen, arms, and legs, leaving deep wounds as blood splattered around them. McGregor, bewildered by the sudden turn of events, struggled to conjure magical circles, but they eluded him. Feeling utterly helpless, he was seized by the foot and slammed against the ground repeatedly by Karna, who then hurled him into the sky. Karna proclaimed that the mage would witness his power, calling forth the immortal sword that even the king of Rakshasa would succumb to. He whispered the name of his attack, Brahmastra, as his right eye glowed a fierce red before unleashing a powerful blast toward McGregor. The attack struck McGregor directly, causing him to cry out in pain from the intense magical assault. He fell to the ground, his body marked by severe burns. Breathing heavily and struggling to keep one eye open, McGregor watched as the albino approached him. Karna admitted that McGregor had been a formidable opponent but had become overconfident, leading to his easy defeat. He added that had he used all his power, McGregor would surely be dead, and he should be grateful for his mercy. As Karna turned away, McGregor could only watch as the albino walked off, slowly closing his eyes before collapsing. Karna mused that their leader must have finished his task as he walked toward the building. The place was eerily silent. Issei sat in a chair, surveying the scattered books around him. Behind him, Tobio was in a deplorable state, crucified against the wall, with numerous holes in his body, sparing only his vital organs. Issei turned to look at Tobio, a shadow forming on his left arm as he smiled kindly. He then turned back to his team and inquired if they had completed their task. The group confirmed that they had. However, the orange-haired girl noted that they could not leave just yet. Karna remarked that it was too soon to say that. At that moment, the group turned to see a familiar assembly of figures: Serchest, Lucifer, Graphia Lucifuge, Azazel, the leader of the fallen, Naomi Hyoudou, Barakiel, Seraphal Leviathan, and Rudiger Rosencrusts. Issei stated that they had company. Minutes earlier, in the underworld within the castle of Mao Lucifer, the Hyoudou family was engaged in a calm discussion. Naomi was conversing with Rius and her entourage, as allies should get along. Everything was tranquil until Serchest received a message through a magical circle, similar to Goro. The conversation shifted as both patriarchs opened their eyes in shock at what they had just heard, which did not go unnoticed by the others present. Serchest exclaimed in alarm that they were in danger, while Goro shouted about an attack on the association. The message from Serchest was from Mao Ajuka Beelzebub, informing him of a level 10 threat posed by one of his pieces, indicating a matter of life and death. Goro received word from a wizard that a group had attacked the association, leaving many injured and some dead. As the two men concluded their conversation, the atmosphere was filled with concern and curiosity about what was happening. They began to relay the information to everyone present, who were left in complete shock by the revelations. Serchest ordered a small army to prepare for departure. Without waiting for anyone's consent, Serchest prepared a magical circle to immediately assist and rescue his friends, with his wife and queen, Graphia, accompanying him. Rius wanted to help her brother but was told it was far too dangerous. More individuals were summoned to join the effort, but before Serchest could leave, Naomi stopped him, insisting she would go as the strongest in her family to assist her friends. Arriving at a location not far from the association, they quickly took flight toward their destination, where Seraphal also decided to join them. Upon reaching the association, they encountered Azazel and his group, who quickly explained that he had sent Tobio to retrieve some books at his request, but Tobio had taken too long. Lavinia was supposed to come for him, but sensing a monstrous power, they realized he was in danger. The group flew toward the source of the power, discovering a small group of individuals, and there they found Tobio, severely injured and crucified. In the present, the tension in the area was palpable. The newly arrived group was clearly furious. Serchest commanded several men to attend to the wounded and assist their noble. The group descended rapidly, as a significant portion of the building was missing. Lavinia dashed to help Tobio, passing by the group without a second thought. Azazel clenched his fists tightly, blood seeping from them, which Betrayal noticed. Serchest demanded to know who they were, but the group ignored him. Azazel shouted for them to respond, his anger rising. Serchest urged him to remain calm, while Issei observed the situation with a bored expression, resting his head against his clenched fist. Azazel warned that he was holding back the urge to attack them right then and there, to which Issei found the situation intriguing. Although many had told him the same, he calmly responded while observing the aftermath around them. Azazel inquired about their identities, and Issei chuckled lightly. Naomi, filled with rage, demanded answers, her anger fueled by the sight of many fallen mages, including friends she had known and learned from. The dragon advised her to calm down and avoid acting rashly. Azazel pressed further, asking Issei about his intentions. Issei explained that their objective had already been achieved, but the mages had continued to attack, prompting them to take action. Serchest questioned Issei's casual demeanor, wondering if he truly did not care about the lives lost. Issei calmly replied that he had tried to reason with them, but they were stubborn and arrogant, believing themselves superior, which led to their downfall. Azazel, with a hint of confidence, pointed out that Issei was surrounded and had no escape. Issei responded that Azazel's position as the leader of the fallen and the presence of powerful beings meant they were aware of the situation. He emphasized that he had anticipated every move, likening the scenario to a chess game where he was the one in control. In an instant, the group vanished, leaving the more experienced individuals astonished as they looked up to find Issei standing before them. He introduced himself as Abbadon Lucifer, and the revelation of his surname left everyone wide-eyed, realizing the implications of his identity. Issei warned them that they were not aligned with the Cow's Brigade and that their enemies were closer than they believed. With that, the group disappeared as if nothing had happened. In another part of the human world, the group responsible for the attack on the Golden Dawn Association sat on some rocks. Issei stated that their task was complete and they could return to their respective locations. The orange-haired member acknowledged his command, while the albino expressed his intention to return to the castle to avoid suspicion. The black-haired member also decided to leave before his group noticed their absence. Another armored member chose to accompany him. As each member departed, only the blue-haired Calaworn remained. Issei questioned her decision to stay, and she insisted on remaining with him until he achieved his goals. He reassured her that it was unnecessary, but she remained determined. Eventually, he sighed and agreed to let her accompany him as they both vanished from the spot. Meanwhile, at the Golden Dawn, the injured were being treated by the troops of the fallen and demons who had come to assist. The scene was a grim one, with a total of 156 casualties, and the numbers were still rising. Serchest and Azazel were attending to their friends. Azazel asked about Lavinia's condition, and she expressed concern for Tobio, who was losing a lot of blood and had multiple broken bones and contusions. Azazel ordered Betrayal to take Jim and head to the Grigori Hospital immediately. With the order given, Betrayal swiftly picked up Tobio's pet and prepared to leave. Azazel informed Serchest that he was departing but would contact him in a few days to discuss the situation further. Azazel, known for his carefree nature, now bore a serious expression, indicating the weight of the circumstances. Serchest agreed to reconnect in a few days, his tone serious as Azazel left in a magical circle with his escorts. Serchest then turned to Grafia, his voice filled with concern and frustration. Grafia sighed, detailing the injuries of their comrades. Okita had numerous cuts, broken bones, and a shattered spine. Enka's body had been severely mutilated, and he had suffered a brain hemorrhage. He was taken to the Citri Hospital, while McGregor and others had multiple severe injuries, including broken bones and severe burns. Grafia noted that without immediate attention, they would have lost their lives. Serchest clenched his fists in anger and helplessness, witnessing the brutal damage inflicted on his noble friends and companions. Grafia shared his fury, feeling the pain of seeing her friends in such dire conditions. Meanwhile, Naomi was doing everything she could to assist the injured, devastated by the sight of her former companions in such a state, some dead, others wounded, and some dismembered. She wondered what kind of person could commit such atrocities. Ella was determined to make the responsible party pay for everything that had happened. Throughout the night, they focused on healing the injured and recovering the deceased. Issei and his companion arrived at a temple after studying a book they had found in a library stolen from the Association of Mages. Upon entering, they encountered a few traps and guards, but the woman swiftly dealt with them without mercy. Afterward, they reached a chamber with a door that had a book-shaped indentation in the center. Realizing this, Issei took a book and placed it in the slot, causing the door to swing open, revealing a room filled with gold coins and precious items, all made of the same material. However, Issei was not interested in any of that. They pressed on until they reached a staircase. At the bottom, there was a purple lectern with a golden ring at its center, adorned with a violet gem and flanked by skull-like shapes. Inscribed on one side were the words, "There is no other name under heaven given among men by which we must be saved." Issei smiled as the woman noticed that he had found what he was looking for. He expressed his excitement, stating that they had finally discovered another artifact blessed by God. The woman, watching Issei's smile, felt a blush creep onto her cheeks. Issei noted that with this ring, they now possessed 3 of the 7 weapons blessed by God. He placed the ring on the middle finger of his right hand, and suddenly, it began to glow intensely, forcing both of them to shield their eyes. When the light faded, Issei was enveloped in a golden aura that radiated sacred power. He declared that the Ring of Solomon now belonged to him. In the beginning of the world, when the earth was barren and shrouded in darkness, humanity lived in hiding from the wild beasts that ruled the land. God, seeing his creation vulnerable, defended humanity with great fervor. He commanded the seas and skies, creating light so that humans could live more safely. However, the creatures of darkness resisted this new world, seeking to reclaim what was once theirs by attacking those who were not of their kind. Gradually, humanity began to vanish from the face of the earth. Seeing his children massacred, God sent his mightiest warriors, the archangels, to halt the advances of the monsters. Among them were Michael, the leader of the heavenly army, Gabriel, the celestial messenger, Raphael, the protector of travelers and health, Uriel, the overseer of lands and temples, Raguel, the arbiter of justice, Sariel, the guardian of the spirits of sinful men, and lastly, Lucifer, the embodiment of beauty and intelligence. They were tasked with driving back the beasts. With his power and glory, God blessed humanity to defend themselves. 7 blessings were given to mankind to confront the darkness and evil that inhabited the earth. Even the gods who sought to control humanity were held back by the archangels. Over time, those deemed worthy of wielding these weapons continued to fight for peace. When the moment came, the blessings would pass to another worthy individual. However, as time went on, humanity became prideful of their power, and malice took root in their hearts. They no longer sought to protect their brothers and sisters. Their purpose shifted to ruling over them and all lesser beings, striving for glory and praise. The power bestowed upon them began to poison their minds, leading them to forget their mission and igniting wars among themselves, where the strong preyed upon the weak. Seeing his creation lost, God sent his most trusted sons, Michael and Lucifer, to eradicate the corrupted. This only left 2 survivors, Adam and Lilith. With the war subdued, God entrusted his sons to rebuild everything from the ground up with his blessings. Years passed, during which many events unfolded, such as the emergence of the first demon, Lilith, the fall of Lucifer, and the creation of Eve. Over time, humanity thrived, with some survivors hiding the blessings from the world to prevent history from repeating itself. As time went on, humanity prospered, spreading and creating civilizations and kingdoms. Yet, no one knew of the existence of the 7 blessings of God, and as the years went by, everyone forgot what had transpired after the deaths of Adam and Eve. In the present day, the attack on the Association of Mages remained a closely guarded secret known only to a select few. This was done to prevent chaos among their factions. Although Golden Dawn was a group of human mages, they were powerful, possessing abilities capable of defeating high-class demons. Their security was top-notch, and both their students and teachers were prodigies. After the attack, the school closed its doors temporarily to clean up and reorganize. The attack, known as Abbadon Lucifer, along with his group, was being sought after by the associations and two of the three factions, the demons and fallen angels, classified as a significant threat due to the danger they posed. It was the first time in years that someone had the audacity to attack the association, where not many would dare. They had only glimpsed the faces of three individuals capable of defeating several high-level mages and overcoming the servants of the Mao Lucifer, Surzek Gremry. This was the reason the attack was kept secret. They wanted to avoid fear and panic regarding how the supernatural beings of each faction would react if they learned that a group of individuals had managed to breach the highest security and eliminate several high-level mages. With the lives of some members of the strongest entourage in hell at stake, they faced the same leaders and their companions who ranked among the 50 most powerful beings on the planet. God was also present, along with the Security. They were not the ones responsible, yet they did not hesitate. The unease spread quickly. Naomi, the bearer of the Red Emperor, helped as much as she could, just like her parents. The attack on the Association of Mages was a heavy blow for them, marked by the loss of their acquaintances and friends. Additionally, as she was assisting with this cause, she could not spend time with her brother. She felt a moral obligation to help others and provide support, and with all her heart, she had to set her brother aside. She was furious beyond furious about the loss of her friends and the reduced time she had with her brother. The thought of confronting the one responsible for all this filled her with a fierce determination. In Ko, the sound of heels echoed as a beautiful woman with long black hair tied in a ponytail walked down the street in a white kimono. As she passed a narrow alley, two figures leaned against the wall. One had long brown hair adorned with various tattoos, while the other was an albino with a star-like mark in his eyes. Both watched as the woman walked by, then began to follow her until she stopped at a door, which she opened, allowing them to enter the building. As they ascended the stairs, they admired the artwork lining the walls. They entered a room where several people were present, including Chisato Hasegawa, Suki, Eriko Takeda, and two men. One was a dark-haired man dressed in a military-style uniform with an eagle on his shoulder, while the other, also dark-haired, bore several scars and had black eyes with yellow pupils. They all sat around a circular table with the brown-haired man positioning himself behind Hasegawa, while Alan stood behind the woman who had just arrived. A glow enveloped her, revealing the same dark elf they had saved. Hasegawa spoke seriously, stating that it seemed everyone was present. She continued, explaining that supernatural beings were now aware of Issei's team, and until now, they had remained anonymous due to certain circumstances. The others nodded in agreement. Eriko, the elf, inquired about the blessed weapons from God. The red-haired woman responded that they currently had 3 of the 7 blessed weapons, including the Ring of Solomon, which Issei displayed to everyone. Suki added that the rest of the weapons were secured and could not be used, as no one was deemed worthy except for Issei, who was the only one capable of wielding them. The serious black-haired man then informed them that the seal containing the beast was weakening, and their informants from the Cows Brigade revealed that it was being led by Ophis Ouroboros. However, this was a ruse, as the children of Lucifer were conspiring against her. Hasegawa noted that their fallen informants had told them that Azazel only wanted peace above all else. Eriko then shifted the conversation back to Issei, calling for his attention. She asked if he was willing to continue with this path, reminding him that once he revealed himself to the supernatural world, there would be no turning back. Whatever he decided would be accepted without objection, as he had already helped them greatly. She asked him to choose. Did he want to be Issei Hyoudou, or did he want to pursue their purpose? Issei took a moment to think before finally responding. 2 weeks had passed since the attack. With great effort, they managed to rebuild their place and give a dignified burial to the fallen, extending condolences to each family. The injured were gradually healing, and those who had lost limbs were receiving assistance. This marked the first collaboration for a common good between the fallen angels and demons. However, those who were severely injured remained in comas. During this time, two individuals managed to awaken, Kuin and Okita. Upon hearing the news, Serchest rushed to check on them, deeply worried for their well-being. Grafia smiled, observing her husband's concern for their friends, who were safe and sound. Unfortunately, Tobio and McGregor had suffered the worst injuries and would have likely perished without the swift actions of their faction teams. Seeing his companions awake, Serchest embraced them tightly. Okita and Enku recounted everything that had transpired, detailing the opponents they faced, their battles, and their thoughts. This information left the Mao very concerned. The existence of individuals with such power could not be overlooked, especially given the unusual techniques they employed. The troubling aspect was that their opponents were merely members of a faction and not influential figures. They explained that McGregor had confronted the leader alongside Tobio, and they needed to wait for him to awaken to gather more information about his abilities, techniques, race, and more. 1 month after the attack on the association, in the human world at the Hyoudou residence, Issei could be seen exercising, showcasing his well-toned physique. He counted his repetitions aloud, pushing himself to the limit before finally sitting on the edge of his bed, breathing heavily. After taking a bottle of water and drinking from it, he set it aside and headed straight for the shower to freshen up before preparing a meal. Several minutes later, the family gathered in the dining room, enjoying a meal prepared by Issei. His mother had suffered a strange injury to her hand while helping with the construction of a school, which hindered her ability to cook. As high-level magicians, a cut like that could easily be healed with magic, but Issei had witnessed the injury, making it suspicious if she healed too quickly. To prevent his mother from overexerting herself, Issei volunteered to cook while she recovered, a decision that his parents and sister initially opposed. They believed that as a family, they should support him, not the other way around. However, their resistance quickly faded as they fell in love with Issei's cooking. Naomi admitted that her brother was an excellent cook, and their parents were enamored with the flavors he created. Although their mother felt a sense of defeat seeing her son cook better than she could, Goro praised Issei's cooking, declaring it delicious, while Naomi agreed wholeheartedly. Miki, feeling overwhelmed, expressed her feelings of inadequacy. Issei, unfazed, encouraged everyone to eat, reminding them that wasting food was not good. Naomi then asked him why he always said that phrase. Just as Issei was about to respond, the doorbell rang. With a sigh, he stood up to answer it, noticing that his parents were eating in a rather distracted manner. Naomi sensed who it was, her aura revealing everything. Seconds later, Rius Gremory entered and joined the Hyoudou family at the table. Rius had moved in next door, as Serchest had purchased all the houses in the block to build a larger home. To express gratitude to the family, he made their home bigger as well. Issei had been hypnotized into believing that Rius had always lived next door, which added to the peculiar situation. Although Rius's presence caused some tension, especially with Issei's mother, who was upset about the hypnosis without consent, she calmed down with the support of her husband and daughter. This situation arose due to the dangers in the supernatural world, as a new group sought by the factions posed a significant threat. Concerned for his sister, the red-haired Rius had asked the Hyoudou family for this favor, using the opportunity to strengthen their alliance. Rius complimented Issei's cooking, claiming it was even better than what professional chefs prepared for her. Issei dismissed the praise, but as he stood to check on the sauce, Rius remarked that he would make a great husband someday. This comment elicited various reactions. Goro found it amusing, Akane shot her a fierce look, and Miki wore a deadpan expression, causing Rius to laugh nervously. Naomi warned Rius to stay away from her brother, making her intentions clear. Miki, with a gentle smile, also requested that Rius keep her distance, stating that Issei was not ready for a relationship, and their alliance should not complicate matters. Rius nervously clarified that she had only meant it as a compliment. The atmosphere in the room grew tense, and Rius's demon instincts urged her to leave. Just then Miki confronted her, implying that Rius believed her son was not enough for her. Naomi echoed this sentiment, and the mood shifted to one of anger. Rius felt trapped, knowing that one wrong word could end badly for her. Desperately seeking help from the family patriarch, she found none, as he simply turned away, silently apologizing. Rius prayed for a miracle, and as if her plea had been heard, Issei returned with the sauce, lightening the mood instantly. His arrival transformed the tense atmosphere into one of relaxation. Rius was taken aback by the sudden shift, as Miki and Naomi, who had previously exuded a threatening aura, now radiated warmth and affection, which surprisingly did not bother her. Noticing the change, Issei asked if something had happened. Naomi reassured him that everything was fine, while Miki inquired about what he was carrying. Issei explained that it was for the smoked meat, enhancing the flavor. Rius then asked if he was studying to become a chef. Issei replied that he simply enjoyed cooking and had plenty of free time as a child. Hearing this, his family felt a pang of heartache, reflecting on their past neglect. Although Issei did not say this with bad intentions, he simply shared his childhood experiences. Rius asked what he would like to do in the future, and Issei replied that he wasn't sure yet as he took a seat. Rius laughed, saying that whoever he ended up with would surely be happy. Issei expressed his gratitude to Rius, and she smiled while eating again, trying to avoid the intense glares from the mother and daughter duo. When she tasted the food, Rius exclaimed in delight, clearly fascinated by the flavors. Akane was equally impressed, while Goru and Miki reacted with satisfaction. These reactions from the family and the demon were all sparked by a taste of Issei's cooking. He watched with satisfaction as he tucked a magazine labeled Yukihira into his shirt. In a distant part of the underworld, far from the territories of demons and fallen angels, a meeting was taking place between these races to discuss a newly emerged group. Serchest inquired about Azazel's subordinate, to which Azazel sighed and mentioned that Tobio had awakened and was recovering, though it would take time. Serchest acknowledged this news as good. Azazel then asked about Serchest's knight, who was also recovering slowly. Serchest mentioned that Tobio had spoken about an entity named Abbadon Lucifer, and Azazel noted that Tobio's memories were vague, recalling only being struck and pierced, but he did remember an elf. Serchest speculated if this elf was the one found in a destroyed cell, and Azazel agreed that it was possible. He warned that if this elf could wield magic and spells of such a high level unexpectedly, it could pose a danger. Serchest then mentioned that Okita had something to say that Azazel might not like. Azazel inquired about it, and Serchest revealed that the person Tobio faced was a female fallen angel. Azazel fell silent, letting out a sigh of frustration, realizing he would need to keep a close watch on everyone. Serchest asked if Azazel had gathered more information about this group, to which Azazel replied that they had appeared out of nowhere, piquing his curiosity. Serchest noted that the group consisted of humans and a fallen angel, while the others remained unidentified. Azazel expressed disbelief that humans could possess such power, suggesting they were likely users of sacred gears since it wasn't magic. Serchest added that the stolen book concealed secrets beyond its enchantments, which Azazel found troubling. Serchest attempted to discuss an alliance between their factions, and Azazel agreed, stating they could not face the situation alone, especially with the emergence of the Cows Brigade and this new group. Serchest expressed uncertainty about whether they would unite but acknowledged the need for vigilance. Azazel then asked if they should inform the angels, and Serchest confirmed that Michael was also seeking peace, suggesting that more support would help them confront these threats. As they continued discussing important matters regarding the alliance and the meeting with the angels, the scene shifted to the human world at the Hyoudou residence. 3 months had passed since Rius moved in with the Hyoudou family, and their relationship was flourishing. She had formed a new friendship with Akane, and despite a rough start, they had grown closer. The family now regarded Rius as one of their own, sharing many common interests. It was decided that Rius would live with them permanently rather than just as a neighbor. However, to Miki's annoyance, Issei's memory was altered to prevent any issues. During this time, Rius noticed that Issei did not interact much with his family, which piqued her interest, but she chose not to interfere, understanding that family matters needed to be resolved within the family. When school resumed, many boys began to curse Issei, and some attempted to intimidate him, but this never escalated due to Sona Shitori's protective presence. Over the month, more than 23 students were expelled. At the academy, it was normal for Naomi to spend more time with Rius, although she was not part of the occult research club, much to Keite's and Murayama's relief. However, Murayama suspected that Rius was interested in Issei, which made her more aggressive toward him, inviting him to go out, eat together, walk, and read the same books. Although her progress was slow, she was making an effort. Naomi did not take this well, feeling jealous of another girl getting close to her brother. Despite her jealousy, Naomi eventually accepted the situation, thinking that her brother should have more friends and experience what it was like to have a partner, which left her feeling conflicted. Issei had always been a solitary child, avoiding social interactions, which frustrated her, leading her to allow Murayama to approach him. One evening as night fell, Rius Gremory walked home to her new residence. She enjoyed living with the Hyoudou family, finding the environment warm and lively, and appreciated having Naomi and the matriarch to discuss topics that her friend Akino did not cover. Secretly, Rius and Naomi shared a common interest in first-person shooter games. Once Rius discovered this, she played in secret, mindful of her reputation, as few would expect a refined and classy woman to engage in gaming like the so-called Rada or otaku. Upon arriving home, Rius went to her room to change into lighter clothing. Issei was the only one home, as the other residents were attending a meeting of the Golden Dawn Mages, which would last into the night. She made her way to the living room where her friend was. Yes, she became friends with Issei. It took her a month to speak openly with him, as he had very high defenses. Rius thought her beautiful body and face would be the key to getting closer to him, but to her surprise, it didn't work, and she was turned down. This certainly hurt her pride as a woman. To be honest, what man wouldn't look at her? There were even more chances of a priest entering a strip club than not noticing her. It took time, but she succeeded. As she spoke about topics she had studied, she managed to get him to start talking with her. To her delight and surprise, he looked at her, not at her body, but into her eyes. There was no reflection of perversion or lust, only interest and curiosity, thanks to their conversation topics. Rius felt very strange. The boys at school or elsewhere always looked at her with lust, which she noticed and found annoying. However, as a woman of class, she had to behave, and over time, she got used to it. But with Issei, it was different. She felt free and relaxed, something she had never experienced with any man outside her family. She walked to the room and instead of entering, she peeked in to see him. There he was, sitting and reading a book, with a chessboard and a cup of tea in front of him. The atmosphere surrounding him was calming and refined. With great care, she took out her phone and snapped a picture to send to her friend Sona. It was no surprise that her friend had taken an interest in him. If they thought about it, Issei had everything Sona looked for in a partner. Issei noticed her and said that it was rude to take a photo of someone without their consent, although his gaze remained on the book. Rius was surprised and laughed, then walked over to where Issei was and positioned herself on the sofa across from him. She asked him how he was doing, and he advised her that if she was going to take a photo, she should check that the camera's indicator light was off. Rius quickly checked her phone and, to her embarrassment, saw that the red light was indeed on. She apologized, feeling flustered, and Issei said that if she deleted the photo, he would accept her apology. Rius playfully pleaded with him to let her keep it, puffing out her cheeks in a cute manner. Issei firmly declined her request, and she continued to ask, using her best puppy dog eyes. After a moment of hesitation, he finally relented, and Rius celebrated her small victory by raising her hands in triumph. She quickly regained her composure, and Issei teased her about acting like a child. Rius countered by calling him a bookworm, and he shot back that she was spoiled. She then called him Four Eyes, to which he proudly replied that he was a sexy and desirable Four Eyes, gesturing to his whole body. The playful banter left the room in a comfortable silence, but after a few moments, they both began to laugh lightly. Rius asked him what he was reading, and Issei responded with a smile, teasing her about her curiosity, which slightly annoyed her. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, trying to relax. Something that worked, but then her gaze fell on the chessboard. Rius asked if Issei played chess. He responded that he found it an entertaining game while picking up a pawn. Rius, still curious, inquired why he thought so. Issei explained that it was simple. It was a game where he could break established rules or logic. Rius pressed for clarification, and Issei encouraged her to think about it. She then asked what he thought of the game, to which Issei questioned why he should accept her challenge. Rius proposed that the winner would prepare tea for the other for a week. Issei teased her, saying she would win because he was not very good at it. Rius warned him not to underestimate a woman, and Issei agreed to play. Thus, Rius took the black pieces while Issei took the white, and they began their match. In a luxurious sitting room somewhere in Ko, a beautiful brown-haired woman sat waiting for someone important. The door opened, and an albino boy with a star-shaped scar on his eye entered. Chisato asked Alan if he was late, and he took a seat across from her. He explained that he had encountered some fallen angels but had the information she requested from Calaworn. As he handed her some documents, Chisato opened them and began to read while Alan awaited her response. She noted that the fallen were creating artificial sacred gears and inquired about the war maniac. Alan sighed and explained that the maniac would attack the church first to steal Excalibur fragments and would also target the demon territory to incite war. Chisato smiled lightly, adjusting herself in her chair as she gazed at the ceiling, contemplating how Kokabeel would make their job easier with the weapon blessed by God. Meanwhile, on a soccer field, an important match was taking place between Ko Academy and its classic rival. With the clock showing 39 minutes into the game, the spectators were on edge. A brown-haired player wearing the number 8 received a pass and began a long run toward the opposing goal, leaving several players behind. He lifted his head and sent a through ball to a teammate, who increased his speed and pushed the ball into the rival's net. The crowd erupted in cheers as the number 9 player ran toward Issei with a huge smile, embracing him as the rest of the team joined in the celebration. Ko Academy was leading 1-0 with Issei's parents, the student council, Rius, and Akino cheering from the stands. The coach called Issei over, handing him water and giving him several instructions before he returned to the match, where the team changed their formation to 1-4-4. The rival team resumed play, becoming more aggressive, while Chisato sat watching Issei intently. She wondered why he enjoyed playing this game as she observed him maneuvering around opponents. Issei passed the ball to number 5 and moved deeper into the opponent's area. Number 5 evaded a defender and passed back to Issei, who returned it immediately, allowing number 11 to sprint and score the second goal of the match. The crowd erupted in excitement, while the rival players were frustrated with themselves for failing to stop Ko Academy. As the match concluded, Ko Academy celebrated their victory. Issei's family was thrilled to see their son play, but he left with some teammates without acknowledging them, leaving his parents feeling a bit disappointed. In the Gremry castle of the underworld, sounds of combat echoed throughout the place. This was due to a training session between Naomi and Rius. 3 months had passed since Rius asked Naomi to train her physically to enhance her speed and endurance for combat. After reflecting on her conversation with Issei, Rius recognized her shortcomings and decided to focus on strengthening her body alongside her magical abilities. However, she prioritized physical training, as she already had a strong command of her magical powers. Naomi's warm-up routine included 500 push-ups, 500 sit-ups, and 100 laps around the mansion. For Naomi, this was just the beginning, but Rius felt overwhelmed. After the warm-up, the real training began, consisting of exercises aimed at improving her physical condition: jogging, jumping, lifting heavy objects, and meditation. Naomi had also placed gravity seals on Rius to enhance the effectiveness of her training. Each seal weighed 10 kilograms and was placed on various parts of her body, making movement difficult. Although Rius, being a demon, had higher endurance than an average human, she still felt the strain of the seals. Naomi insisted that Rius wear them at all times and prohibited her from removing them. Rius wanted to protest but held her tongue. She had asked for this training, wanting to become stronger, and thus had to accept the challenges that came with it. The demands of student life became increasingly complicated for her. The training left her with muscle soreness and sleep deprivation. In the initial weeks, Rius struggled to complete Naomi's rigorous schedule, but she persevered, knowing she had to push through every day. The discomfort was bothersome, making it hard for her to maintain her composure at school without drawing attention. Rius was grateful that only 2 weeks remained until winter vacation. Time passed, and she managed to improve significantly in just 1 month, adapting to her new circumstances. By the end of those 30 days, she noticed changes in her body. There was no doubt that her physical condition had improved. Through meditation, she trained to control her power, managing to channel it into her hands and feet, even if only for 10 seconds before exhaustion set in. By the first week of the second month, Rius was surprised by the gift Naomi had given her. It was a golden bird that radiated an aura reminiscent of a phoenix. Rius was undeniably upset. This was crossing a line. However, Naomi convinced her to use the situation to their advantage, as this action by Rius's betrothed was a serious violation of the underworld laws regarding women, imposed by the mighty Leviathan. Given the circumstances, they decided to train in the underworld. This, of course, annoyed both Rius and Naomi for the same reason Issei. Naomi did not want to leave her brother behind, as she still needed to reclaim precious time with him. Rius, on the other hand, did not want to leave him alone. Not long ago, a young woman named Murayama from Issei's class had begun to pursue him, much to Rius's dismay. They would go out, eat together, and chat, which irritated Rius. She knew that this woman was in love with Issei, and the thought of him being with someone else troubled her deeply. It was something she was starting to realize about her own feelings. Rius was not naive. She understood these emotions, but was it too soon to be in love with him? They had only been together for 4 months. Was it even possible to fall in love so quickly? Rius fervently wished for a way to prevent Issei and Murayama from getting together while he was in the underworld. As if responding to her plea, Issei received a scholarship to travel to Rome, Italy, for 2 weeks, coinciding perfectly with his vacation. He accepted the opportunity with enthusiasm. However, the Hyoudou family was not pleased, as they had planned the entire winter vacation to spend time with their son, and now those plans were in disarray. As time went on, Rius and Naomi continued training vigorously. The duo fought fiercely, though Rius felt the pain more acutely. The grimaces on her face were evident. Naomi struck Rius in the stomach with considerable force, causing her to double over. Seizing the moment, Naomi delivered a knee strike that sent Rius airborne. Naomi then appeared above her, ready to bring down both arms in a hammer-like strike, but Rius managed to block it with her arms crossed, causing the ground beneath her to crack. Rius grabbed Naomi's right arm and delivered a high kick to her face, spinning around to land a solid punch that sent Naomi flying. In a flash, Naomi reappeared in front of Rius to strike while she was catching her breath. Naomi kicked her in the ribs, sending Rius rolling on the ground until she lay flat on her back, clutching her stomach. Unable to endure the pain any longer, Rius declared her surrender, holding the spot where she had been hit. She struggled to get back on her feet but ultimately decided to rest on the ground. Naomi approached and sat beside her. She asked Rius how she was feeling, expressing concern that she hadn't hit her too hard. Rius reassured her, saying she would be fine and not to worry, trying to alleviate her friend's guilt. Naomi expressed her surprise at Rius's progress, noting that she had not expected her to improve at such a steady pace. Rius thanked her, attributing her strength to Naomi's guidance and the support of her followers, who encouraged her along the way. However, Naomi's expression shifted to a more serious tone as she posed a question that made Rius nervous. Naomi wanted to know when Rius would make her move with Issei. Rius was taken aback, caught off guard by the suggestion. Naomi continued, stating that she was not blind to Rius's feelings for her brother. Rius remained silent, contemplating her friend's words. After a moment, she admitted that she knew it was foolish, but she wanted to wait. They had only been together for a few months, and she wanted to be sure. Naomi advised her to clarify her feelings, as she was not the only one who saw Issei in that way. Rius fell silent, understanding the implications of Naomi's words. She expressed her frustration that Issei was popular with women, sighing as she did so. Naomi mentioned not only Murayama but also Akino and even Sona, which surprised Rius. She had thought Sona was only interested in Issei for his nobility. Naomi reminded Rius of a photo she had taken of Issei months ago, which showed him with a dreamy expression. It was clear that Sona's feelings were more than mere admiration. Rius processed this information, realizing the complexity of the situation. She knew she was in love, but was it too soon to act on it? After all, Issei had always treated her like a woman, and therein lay the dilemma. He was just a human, unaware of the supernatural world around him. It was absurd for him to declare his feelings or to think about having a harem. To human eyes, that was simply wrong. She cursed Issei's character when he interacted with others. He was very kind and friendly, able to understand people perfectly, as if he could read their hearts. Take Akino, for example. Her friend with black hair carried many burdens from the past that were impossible to forget. Rius was the only one who truly understood her, having known her for years. Naomi was only aware of superficial matters, nothing significant. Over time, Akino had developed a mask that could be flirtatious but also kept men at a distance. When someone tried to flirt with her, she would simply dismiss them, using this face even at school. This led to only a handful of people truly knowing her. However, Issei somehow penetrated this mask, causing Akino to open up to him. If it weren't for Naomi and her mother, she might have shared everything about the supernatural world with him. Issei undoubtedly provided the right words for her to express herself more. But this was only with him. One day, Akino changed, and Rius noticed. She became more expressive, and the smile she gave was genuine. Her attitude towards Issei had shifted. Where she had once been flirtatious and provocative, she now seemed shy. When the brown-haired boy was near or when they spoke, Akino transformed into a different person. And those eyes looked at him with love, a deep and profound affection. If Rius sought to connect these women with Issei on a more NTMT level, Murayama and Akino would be the main contenders. Sona, however, would not be included, as they did not spend much time together. The demons certainly had competition. Rius declared that she had rested enough and was ready to resume their training. Naomi simply laughed and agreed, stating that she would be tougher than before. Rius sighed at this and resigned herself, suggesting that Naomi should start. Naomi, with a wild smile, responded that Rius should not have said that. And with that, their training continued. In a luxurious apartment in Rome, Italy, a brown-haired young man was slowly waking up due to the sunlight streaming in. As he opened his eyes, he saw a woman with brown hair putting on her underwear before slipping into a robe. Issei couldn't take his eyes off her. The woman turned around, a smile gracing her face. Chisato greeted him with a slight smile, and Issei returned it. She walked over to him and sat on his lap. He took her by the legs, and they gradually leaned in closer, sharing a kiss filled with the love they had for each other. To be continued. Chapter End. Italy, Rome. The focus shifted to the bustling streets of Rome. Anyone observing would undoubtedly describe it as beautiful, whether for its history, design, or customs. The city enjoyed a sense of peace, thanks to the high security provided by both police and clergy. This city was home to the finest exorcists, and no demon or supernatural being would dare to attack such a place. At least not yet. However, the scene centered around a cafe, an outdoor stall where two individuals appeared to be having breakfast. Chisato, dressed in a full-body orange dress with her hair tied back in a ponytail and wearing long brown boots, turned to Issei. She asked about the eggs and bacon, to which Issei, casually dressed in an open shirt that revealed his chest and blue pants, replied that they were delicious. Chisato then shifted the conversation to the preparations for their upcoming task. Issei reassured her that he would provide around 220 demons for the job. Chisato expressed concern, questioning whether that was too much for a mere distraction. Issei explained that to drive them away, they needed to be serious. Sending only a few would result in inexperienced fighters being dispatched. Chisato acknowledged the necessity of the blessing they had received. Issei noted that while it was helpful, it had its limits, but by the end of the day, they would have another blessing. Curious, he inquired about the others. Chisato replied that they were calm for now, but the boys were anxious about what was planned for today. Issei understood their feelings, recognizing that while they wouldn't face the demons directly, they would be up against strong opponents. Chisato pondered why there were no angels guarding such an important place, suggesting that something so significant shouldn't even be on Earth. Issei calmly explained that even the angels were unaware of it. Only a handful of people knew about the blessings, and no supernatural beings were aware of their existence. Chisato began to grasp the implications, realizing that even angels might succumb to the temptation of such powers. As Issei stood up and walked toward the exit with Chisato, she asked when he would reveal himself to the supernatural world. Issei replied that the time had not yet come, but when it did, everything would change. Chisato remarked that many considered him a cruel man. Issei responded that people spoke without knowing the truth, and he was indifferent to their opinions. Chisato observed him, recognizing that no one truly understood the weight he carried or the sadness he felt. Yet, to her, he was a kind person. As they walked through the city, they stopped when Issei noticed a man lying on the ground, begging for help. The man appeared to be disabled, and Issei looked at him with sadness, empathizing with his pain. He approached the man, who pleaded for any amount of money to support his family. While many might assume the man was faking his disability, Issei felt differently. He sensed the man's genuine suffering, determination, and shame. He knew the man needed help, a blessing. Issei calmly asked if the man believed in God. The man replied that he did and expressed gratitude despite his suffering. Issei inquired why he was thankful for his pain. The man explained that he was grateful because God cared for his family and children, preferring to bear the burden himself. Issei saw the sincerity in the man's eyes and extended his hand to him. The man, surprised, looked at Issei, who appeared calm and peaceful. Issei encouraged him to take his hand, assuring him that if he had faith, he would be lifted. As the man took Issei's hand, he felt a surge of energy coursing through him. Issei's voice resonated with peace as he declared that he had no money or gold, but what he had, he would give. He urged the man to rise in the name of Jesus Christ. In that moment, the man, once unable to stand, found himself on his feet. He was astonished, looking at Issei and then at his own legs, which he touched in disbelief. He began to jump and walk around Issei, tears streaming down his face. Issei told him to remember the blessing he had received and left the scene with Chisato, leaving the man on the ground, overwhelmed with gratitude, shouting praises to the heavens for sending a savior. The individuals who were ready to record the events were unable to do so because their phones malfunctioned. Unbeknownst to Issei and his companion, a blonde woman with blue eyes dressed in a nun's outfit, which accentuated her figure, witnessed everything. She remarked that she needed to report this to the church, but a wide smile spread across her face as she left. As night fell over the city, the only sound was the wind. In a secluded area surrounded by trees, two familiar figures stood ready. The brown-haired woman spoke, indicating they could begin whenever they wanted. The brown-haired man replied that they should wait a little longer for someone to arrive. They were dressed in attire representing their group, with the woman wearing a raven mask. As silence enveloped them, the sound of wings flapping announced the arrival of another. Calawarner appeared, and the brown-haired man greeted her calmly. She expressed her regret for intruding but assured him she would always be by his side, no matter the mission. The brown-haired woman teased him, suggesting she could take care of him well, but the blue-haired woman responded with a hint of venom in her voice, asserting her preference to be the one to protect him. A fourth voice chimed in, causing both women to sigh while Issei glanced at a nearby tree. Calawarner confronted the newcomer with hostility, questioning his tardiness. The brown-haired woman added a sarcastic remark about his delay. The newcomer, Abel, apologized for his poor manners, explaining he had been preoccupied with an important matter. Issei noted Abel's choice of attire, to which Abel replied that a gentleman should always be presentable. His outfit consisted of a black and white suit with an ancient design, complemented by a reddish-brown tunic and an antique hat adorned with a feather, along with a unique lens over his right eye. Issei confirmed they were ready, and the group responded affirmatively before being enveloped in a purple aura and vanishing. At the Vatican, a gathering was taking place with 12 individuals seated at altars marked with Roman numerals. These 12 men, dressed in white tunics and matching hats that covered the tops of their heads, were the 12 priests of the congregation responsible for organizing and training exorcists, as well as ensuring that the churches under their authority fulfilled their duties. Before them knelt the blonde woman in a nun's attire. One of the priests, serious yet curious, inquired if she was saying a young man had restored a man's ability to walk as if it were nothing. The woman confirmed this, and another priest asked for a description of the young man. She described him as having brown hair, hazel eyes, fair skin, and standing approximately 6 feet tall. When asked if she had a photo, she produced her phone and displayed an enlarged image of the young man. The priests examined the image, and one expressed surprise at how young he appeared. Another cautioned against drawing conclusions from a single image. One priest speculated that he might be using a different kind of magic, labeling him a pagan. Another priest countered that they could not be certain of that. They turned to Griselda, asking if she had been able to identify the type of aura he possessed. She regrettably admitted that she could not determine it, only assuming it was magic. One priest noted that Griselda seemed to be becoming careless, but he fell silent under the intimidating gaze of the woman, who was known to answer only to someone much higher in authority. She was one of the 5 strongest exorcists in the world, ranked 2nd. Before she could finish her report, the door burst open, and a young man rushed in, breathing heavily as if he had just run a marathon. A priest angrily demanded to know what could be so urgent as to interrupt an important meeting. The young man, filled with fear and desperation, announced that they were under attack. The priests exchanged glances, unsure of what to make of his claim. He insisted that demons were attacking the city. The revelation shocked everyone present. Questions erupted about how the demons had arrived unnoticed. An apostle demanded to know when the attack would occur. The young man replied that they did not know for certain, but there were over 100 of them. This revelation left the room in stunned silence. Griselda was ordered to gather the others and head to the site of the battle. She commanded the young man to follow her as they rushed outside. As they ran, she pondered the implications of demons and angels breaking their pact of non-aggression, feeling a sense of worry. To be continued. A part of the city lay in flames and destruction, filled with the sounds of screams and impacts. This chaos was the result of a group of exorcists battling the demons that had invaded their territory. The scene was a grim one, with bodies scattered across the ground. A woman exorcist, frightened and on the ground, cried out in fear as a demon targeted her. The demon approached, claws poised to strike, and she shut her eyes tightly, bracing for the worst. Moments passed, and when she felt nothing, she dared to open her eyes. To her astonishment, the demon stood before her, motionless, until it was suddenly cleaved in two. Behind the monster stood a blonde woman clad in a full black outfit. The exorcist gasped in surprise and joy at the sight of her sister, Griselda. Griselda commanded her to retreat and take the injured with her. The woman complied, backing away as Griselda faced the gathering horde of demons. The seriousness of the situation weighed heavily on her. She had never imagined that Rome, a stronghold protected by the church, would be attacked. With a commanding voice, Griselda declared that those who dared invade holy ground would be eliminated in the name of God. Behind her stood a massive group of exorcists, swords drawn and ready for battle. As they charged forward, the exorcists shouted their battle cry. Meanwhile, a familiar figure watched from a distance, a woman wearing a raven mask. She smiled with satisfaction, pleased to see events unfolding according to her plan. In another location at the church headquarters, a priest expressed his concern about the demon invasion of Holy Land. Another priest noted the strangeness of the situation, questioning why the demons would act so boldly. A third priest wondered about their intentions, given that demons typically avoided direct interaction with the church. Suddenly, an unfamiliar voice interrupted their discussion, causing the priests to look around in surprise. They directed their attention upward, where they spotted 3 figures on the roof, 2 masked individuals and 1 unmasked, clearly identifying them as intruders, one of whom resembled a fallen angel. The trio observed the priests carefully until one of the priests, hidden from view, lunged at them with a sword. In a swift motion, one of the masked figures appeared before him, stopping the attack with an aura of power. The assailant prepared to strike again but was pinned against the wall. As the trio descended to the ground, the priests regarded them with seriousness. 11 more figures appeared, armed with swords, forming a protective barrier around the apostles. One priest clenched his fist in anger upon seeing the young man pinned to the wall, a knife embedded in his chest. The apostle demanded to know who they were. The leader of the group calmly introduced themselves as Apocalypse. Another priest accused them of being responsible for the demon invasion. The figure, Issei, responded that it was irrelevant. The apostle, filled with rage, questioned whether human life was a game to Issei. Issei assured him that the human inhabitants were safe, but the exorcists were another matter. He revealed his desire for the feather of Exodus, demanding it with calm authority. The apostles were taken aback, and the guards exchanged confused glances. One of the priests asked how Issei knew of the feather. Issei dismissed the question, insisting that if they handed it over, their lives would be spared. A roar of defiance erupted from one of the apostles, vowing never to surrender something so dangerous. Issei warned them that he would eventually acquire the feather, urging them to make it easier on themselves. The apostles, proud of their status, warned him not to underestimate them. They declared that eliminating him would erase a threat and keep the feather's existence a secret. An apostle prayed for Issei's soul as they prepared for battle. A young man in a red coat stepped forward, offering to handle the situation. Abel, as he was known, instructed another to protect the leader, ensuring he remained untainted by bloodshed. When questioned about his identity, Abel introduced himself as one of the 7 horsemen. Confusion spread among the guards, who questioned whether he intended to bring ruin to the world. Abel clarified that he sought to eliminate evil, not the world itself. With determination, Abel stated that he had a job to do, and as a knight, he would see it through. He raised his hands, revealing knives nestled between his fingers, and proclaimed his name once more, wishing blessings upon all present. He bowed slightly, one hand near his hat, which angered those present, prompting the guards to be the first to react. After the significant attack on the Vatican in Italy, the supernatural world had descended into complete chaos. The angels were furious about the massacre that had occurred in the church. While it was true that this attack had taken everyone by surprise, the group known as Apocalypse posed a serious threat to the factions, making the situation increasingly complicated. All the angels in heaven were searching for any clues that could lead them to this strange group of assassins. However, this information did not leak out of control as it had with the Association of Wizards. It was classified as ultra-secret. The only ones who knew were the high-ranking seraphim. Somewhere in the world, in a beautiful field, a red-haired man stood alongside a man with black hair and blonde streaks. A bright light appeared behind them, from which emerged a long-haired blonde man wearing a robe. This man was Michael, the current leader of the angels, while the other 2 were Azazel, leader of the Grigori, and Serchest, the current Lucifer. Michael greeted them, acknowledging the time that had passed since they last met. Azazel remarked on how things had spiraled out of control, to which Michael nodded and pulled out a notebook. They had been investigating the reasons behind the attack, but they had not uncovered anything significant. The fragments of Excalibur remained in their place. Azazel began to think seriously about the reasons for the attack. This is very strange. First, the Association of Wizards, and now the Vatican. The only thing we know about the Wizards Association is that they managed to rescue someone, but Tobio still lacks clear information. Serchest spoke for the first time, as the leaders contemplated the reasons behind these attacks. Michael, does anyone else know about this? Azazel asked. No, no one knows. Only the high-ranking angels and the highest-ranking exorcists are aware, Michael replied, as the other leaders pondered their next steps. But Griselda mentioned something that piqued my curiosity, Michael continued. What is it, Michael? Serchest inquired. She said she saw a person who had healed a disabled individual, although she didn't know what magic was used. All she knows is that it was magic, the angel explained. Both leaders exchanged glances and nodded in understanding. Do you have a picture of this person? Azazel asked. Michael nodded and then showed them a photo of a boy with long chestnut hair alongside a beautiful female figure with wings. Wow, whoever this boy is, he certainly has good taste, Azazel remarked. Serchest studied the photo for a few seconds before realizing something. I've seen this boy before, he said, catching the attention of both leaders. Really? Do you know who he might be? Michael asked. Serchest nodded while examining the photo more closely. He is the son of Goro Hyoudou, Miki Hyoudou, and the brother of the current Sekirei, Serchest explained. Do you think he is connected to these attacks? Azazel questioned. I don't know. His family told me he doesn't possess magic, but this is very strange, Serchest replied, his expression serious. But should we keep him under observation? With that, both leaders nodded in agreement. Well, I have to leave now. I'll see you later, Serchest and Azazel, Michael said before being enveloped in a golden light and disappearing, leaving Azazel and Serchest alone. Are you going to tell his family about this? Azazel asked. Azazel inquired, while Serchest remained silent for a few moments, gazing at the sky. Serchest then expressed that it was better for them not to share certain information yet, suggesting it would be for another occasion. He mentioned that the group had stated their subject was not born with magic or sacred gears, speaking seriously. Azazel agreed, noting that even though the group claimed they were not enemies, something still troubled him. Serchest looked at him for a few moments before sighing and questioning how powerful they were and what they were seeking. After that, both leaders departed through a magical circle, unaware that a figure had emerged from the shadows. A man dressed in formal attire surveyed the area with a smile. He remarked that everything was unfolding as the leader had predicted, finding the situation quite interesting. Behind him appeared an albino boy in exorcist attire, a hood covering most of his face and an animal-themed accessory on his head. The man complimented the boy, Abel, on his progress and noted that the leaders were concerned about what would happen next, especially Issei's family. With that, both men vanished without a trace. Winter vacation had come to an end, and Issei returned to Ko, along with his family and Rius, who accompanied them. After they all arrived home, Issei was asked how his trip had been, to which he replied that it went well without any issues. Upon reaching the residence, the family planned a small celebration for Issei's return, but he mentioned he was tired from the journey and went to sleep. This slightly disappointed the family, but they accepted it. Rius felt a bit disheartened, as she had wanted Issei to try her cooking. The family had dinner without him and then went to their respective rooms. The week passed normally for Issei, who resumed training with the school soccer team and continued his normal life. Naomi had been spending little time with her brother and family due to fallen angels appearing in the area, where she had met a very kind nun. After learning of the nun's predicament, Naomi, with Rius's help, managed to rescue the nun named Asia Argento, who subsequently began living in the Hyoudou residence. Asia quickly won the affection of Issei's parents and Naomi, who considered her a third daughter, while Naomi treated her like a younger sister, and Issei was simply kind to her. During this time, Rius, Murayama, and Akino attempted to make romantic advances toward Issei, which turned out to be unexpected but slow and steady. 2 months passed, and Issei's relationship with his family changed slightly. He became more indifferent at times but still spent some time with them and engaged in conversations. Then, a problem arose for Rius regarding her arranged engagement to Razor Phoenix, who was described by Rius as arrogant and a womanizer. This led to a rating game, during which they had to train intensively for 2 weeks, as proposed by Naomi, who, along with Rius, had not reduced their training schedule, and Akino joined in as well. On the day of the encounter, Issei's parents had to lie to him about a problem that had arisen. Naomi noticed that Issei seemed unfazed by their departure. The battle was intense, with Rius's team demonstrating great superiority in both physical and strategic combat. Rius and Naomi inflicted significant trauma on Razor, who ultimately surrendered after the defeat. Rius Gremory emerged as the winner of the rating game. The Gremory group celebrated while Rius cried tears of joy, exclaiming that they had succeeded. In that moment, she thought of a certain person and resolved to confess her feelings to Issei. In the human world of Ko, Issei leaned against a railing, wearing a black leather jacket. The door opened, revealing a beautiful woman with long brown hair, wearing glasses, a pink jacket, and a short skirt, her face adorned with a smile. Issei smiled back as he extended his hand to her, and she took it, moving closer for a kiss before separating from him. She asked if he was ready for their date. Issei asked if Chisato would like to join him. Chisato responded affirmatively, expressing her readiness to accompany him. With that, both couples took each other's hands and began to leave the hotel, excited for a wonderful evening together without any issues. In the beautiful city of Berlin, Germany, Issei had recently revealed himself against various factions, instilling fear in them. He had managed to escape and found himself in Germany. Inside a luxurious limousine, Issei sat dressed in formal attire, gazing out at the city as they drove. The limousine came to a stop in front of an enormous luxury building. Issei admired the structure for a moment before stepping out, adjusting his tuxedo, and thanking his driver, Fred. The driver nodded and drove away, leaving Issei to walk toward the entrance of the building. Inside, a grand party was underway, filled with important figures engaged in conversation. Several servers moved about, offering drinks, and Issei took a glass of wine, blending in with the crowd. Across the room, an albino man with pale skin and blue eyes, also dressed formally, surveyed the gathering while sipping from his own glass. Beside him stood a striking woman with blue hair and yellow eyes, wearing a black dress that revealed her midriff. She held a purse in her hand. Kalawarner remarked to Karna that the other blessing had arrived. Karna responded calmly, suggesting they enjoy the party without raising any suspicions. Kalawarner nodded and moved away from Karna. In one corner of the venue, Chisato wore a brown dress that left one of her legs exposed, calmly observing the surroundings. Issei approached her, formally asking if she would like to dance. Chisato smiled playfully, took Issei's hand, and they made their way to the center of the dance floor. Issei placed his left hand on her waist while holding her right hand with his right. Chisato rested her left hand on Issei's shoulder, ready to enjoy the moment together. The dance had begun, and Issei and Chisato started to step forward while Chisato moved backward. Karna seized this moment to slip into a dressing room. A man attempted to speak, but he couldn't finish his sentence as Karna delivered a swift punch to his stomach, then grabbed his head and slammed it against the table, leaving him stunned. Karna then continued walking through the venue. On the other side, Kalawarner walked calmly, passing by a beautiful lady and dropping some marbles, causing a couple of waiters to trip over the girl, which made Kalawarner smile. Meanwhile, Issei and Chisato were capturing the attention of everyone around them. Karna climbed some stairs and spotted two guards. As he approached them, the guards tried to stop him, but the first guard received a blow to the chest. The second guard attempted to strike, but Karna dodged to the side. At the dance, Issei made Chisato spin, bringing them close together again. Just inches from each other's faces, Karna struck the second guard's face, dodged another blow from the first guard, and delivered a punch to the chest. He then grabbed the guard's arm and flipped him, causing the guard to fall to the ground. Karna easily evaded a strike from behind, quickly taking hold of the first guard's face and delivering a series of blows to his body, finishing with a decisive strike to the neck that left the guard gasping. Karna then delivered an open-handed punch that sent the first guard flying into the wall, leaving him unconscious. As Issei and Chisato leaned in closer, they shared a passionate kiss, while Karna took hold of the second guard's arm, delivering several punches to the chest followed by a strike to the neck and an uppercut to the chin, knocking him out. Karna sighed, adjusted his tuxedo, and opened the door to enter the next area. Meanwhile, Kalawarner held a card in her hands as she entered a room. Inside, she spotted a small museum and let out a small whistle before beginning her search. Issei and Chisato broke apart from their kiss, receiving applause from the crowd, and both smiled. Chisato then placed her hand on Issei's arm, and they began to walk to a more secluded area. Karna was in a security room, hacking into the cameras to create a magical communication circle. He announced to Kalawarner that he was ready, and she acknowledged him from the other side. Karna exited the room as calmly as possible, while Kalawarner stood in front of a display case, admiring a staff. She carefully took the staff, smiled, and vanished from the spot in a magical circle. Meanwhile, Issei was leaving the luxurious building with Chisato, who joined him in his limousine as they drove away. Time passed, and in a grand mansion, The door opened as Issei entered with Chisato. They separated, and Issei removed his jacket, heading to a minibar to prepare cocktails for both of them while lighting a cigarette. He took both glasses and walked to the living room, where he found Chisato sitting on the sofa and handed her a cocktail. Chisato thanked him, and Issei chuckled as he sat beside her, taking a sip of his drink. Chisato adjusted herself slightly and gazed into Issei's eyes as he took another sip. She began to lightly trace her fingers along his leg, which made him look at her for a moment before leaning in for a gentle kiss. They separated, looking into each other's eyes. Chisato mentioned that she felt excited when he was dressed like that, and she leaned in to kiss him again. Issei returned the kiss, placing his cigarette in an ashtray. Chisato climbed onto Issei's lap, and as their kiss deepened, they took a moment to breathe before Chisato kissed him again, leading to a playful exchange. Neither of them was willing to back down, enjoying the kiss as Issei gently adjusted Chisato on the sofa. He began to loosen the ribbon around her waist, slowly revealing her beautiful skin. As they continued, the atmosphere became charged with excitement, and they shared a moment of connection and intimacy. The strong aroma filled the air, overwhelming the senses. He could still perceive it, almost as if he were consuming it. His nostrils were completely saturated with the intense essence. The brown-haired individual was captivated by the sight before him, watching as the girl with chestnut hair skillfully engaged with him. Her determination was evident, and he couldn't help but focus on her, noticing how she was struggling yet persevering. The sounds of her efforts echoed in the space, a rhythmic reminder of the moment, while he admired her beauty, even as her makeup began to run down her face. Issei found himself captivated by the beauty before him. He felt a rush of excitement as he engaged with Chisato, whose eyes sparkled with a receptive glow. Moments later, overwhelmed by the intensity of the moment, Issei reached a peak of exhilaration. Chisato, quick to respond, embraced the experience fully, her expression reflecting a mix of surprise and delight. As she stood up, Chisato playfully removed her top, revealing her figure. Issei approached her, drawn in by her confidence. He admired her beauty, and in a playful manner, he began to explore the moment further, eliciting soft sounds of enjoyment from her. The atmosphere was charged with excitement, and the two shared a connection that deepened with each passing second. Chisato playfully reacted to Issei's touch, her laughter filling the air as they both enjoyed the playful banter and the thrill of their shared experience. The bond between them grew stronger, filled with light-heartedness and mutual admiration. Chisato writhed in pleasure as Issei continued to increase his pace. She could no longer hold back and announced her overwhelming feelings. Issei, with determination, intensified his actions, bringing her to new heights of joy. Chisato, in a moment of exhilaration, expressed her joy as she released her emotions, showering Issei with her affection. Issei stood up after a few moments, glancing at Chisato, who was breathing heavily. She turned to see the luxurious bed, and Issei walked over to sit on it, looking at her. Chisato approached him and climbed onto the bed, standing near the edge in front of him. Her eyes sparkled with excitement as she smiled at him. She moved closer, wanting to feel the warmth of his presence again. As they shared a moment, Chisato expressed her feelings in the only way she knew how, with a playful and teasing demeanor. She looked at him, her expression inviting, and playfully opened up, revealing her vulnerability. She wanted to draw him closer, feeling an undeniable connection. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation, and she could hardly contain her desire to be with him. Chisato felt a rush of emotions, overwhelmed by the moment, and she knew she wanted to take their connection further. The intensity of the situation made her heart race, and she found herself longing for more, caught up in the thrill of their shared experience. The tip had already entered. It felt so tight, it was incredible how narrow Chisato was. Issei felt as if he might lose his mind from the overwhelming sensation. He tilted his head back, overwhelmed by her tightness, closing his eyes to try to hold back his excitement. Chisato's strange comment caught him off guard, and when he looked at her, he was taken aback. Her eyes were wide open, staring blankly into space, and her lips curled into a twisted smile, a hint of drool escaping. It was clear that Chisato had disconnected from reality, lost in her own world. Issei struggled to maintain his composure. It was difficult to believe that someone could be this tight. If things continued like this, he feared he would lose his sanity sooner rather than later, and in that room it would feel like two animals in heat, seeking to mate as if there were no tomorrow. After Rius's victory over her ex-fiancé, a party was held at the Gremory house, to which the Hyoudou family was invited. They accepted without hesitation. After the festivities, everything returned to normal. Almost everything. Issei now spent less time with his family and barely spoke to Rius. Although his parents wanted to know what their son was up to, they couldn't object to anything. Rius and Naomi suspected he was dating someone, but they quickly dismissed the thought. After a few weeks, Rius, Naomi, and everyone in the occult research club returned to their usual routines. Almost everything. In the present, Issei was dressed casually, wearing a black jacket over a white shirt, paired with black pants and white sneakers. It was evident he was waiting for someone. A feminine voice called out to him, and he turned to see a beautiful girl with red hair and blue eyes. She wore a pink sleeveless top, purple shorts, long socks, and black heels. Rius apologized for being late, and Issei shook his head, indicating it was no problem. He complimented her, saying she looked beautiful, which made Rius blush and smile in response. They began to walk together, while in the distance, Naomi, Akino, and Asia watched from afar. Akino, feeling a bit jealous, commented on Rius getting ahead of them, while Naomi remained silent. Asia asked why they were following Issei and Rius, but Naomi urged them to hurry so they wouldn't lose sight of the couple. As they followed, someone in a white suit walked calmly behind them, blending into the background. Throughout the day, Issei had a great time. They visited an amusement park, rode various rides, and then went to the movies to watch a Marvel film, specifically Deadpool. Finally, they stopped at a fast food restaurant where Issei ordered a burger and fries, along with a soda, and Rius ordered the same. Meanwhile, the girls discreetly followed the couple everywhere. Now, Issei and Rius were walking through the park, eventually sitting on a bench. "I had so much fun today, Issei," Rius said, her excitement evident. Issei agreed, sharing her sentiment. They fell into a comfortable silence, but Rius was trembling with nerves. After taking a deep breath, she spoke again. "Issei-kun, can I tell you something?" He asked what it was, and she took a moment to gather her thoughts. "Since I met you, you've been so kind and good to me. You're the first guy who hasn't treated me like an object or a prize," she clarified, her sincerity shining through. "I really enjoyed my time with you, thanks to you, Issei-kun." Issei remained silent, processing her words. He had an inkling of what she was trying to say, but this wasn't part of his plans. While he appreciated Rius, he never expected this. "And I want to thank you for being my friend, but..." She placed her hands over her heart, her cheeks flushed. "Issei-kun, I like you." Ella had screamed in silence. Issei had not responded, and after a few minutes, Rius was becoming increasingly anxious. Issei spoke calmly, expressing that he didn't know how to respond, but he saw her as a friend. Rius remained silent, holding back tears and clenching her teeth, with many questions swirling in her mind. She apologized, saying she couldn't reciprocate his feelings, but suggested they could still be friends. Rius stood up, tears in her eyes, and told Issei she wanted to be alone. As Issei began to speak, Rius quickly ran away, leaving him behind. In the distance, Naomi, Akino, and Asia had witnessed the scene before Naomi decided to leave, leaving Issei alone. He settled onto a bench and gazed at the sky when a woman sat beside him. She spoke of Kokobile making his move. Issei stood up and put his hands in his pockets, instructing her to tell the others to prepare, as it was time to make arrangements for his revelation. After that he walked away, leaving the woman behind as she also departed. A week had passed, and many things had changed. Rius had fallen into a slight depression, consoled by her friends and followers. Issei's parents had learned about the shift in Rius's demeanor, thanks to Naomi, who had shared everything that had transpired between Rius and Issei. This revelation surprised Issei's parents, especially his mother, who was unsure how to react. She felt a mix of frustration and concern regarding Rius's feelings. Issei, on the other hand, seemed the least affected. A meeting of the occult club was held, during which Issei's mother showed the members a photo of Naomi, Issei, and a boy with a sword hanging in the background. This revelation caused Kiba to change dramatically, leading him to leave home. Days passed without Kiba attending school, and then two people appeared at Issei's house. One was his childhood friend, Irina Hyoudou, and the other was her companion, Zenobia Corda. They wanted to discuss an important matter. Issei's mother had cast a magic spell to put him to sleep, taking him to his room. When Irina was about to ask something, Naomi informed her that Issei was unaware of the supernatural, as he possessed neither magic nor sacred gears, and it was best he remained uninformed. After that, the demons settled in with the Hyudus to talk. Naomi asked Irina why they were there. Irina explained that the church had been attacked, but they didn't know by whom. Issei's mother was surprised, as were the demons. Irina continued, revealing that Kokobile was responsible for the attack and had stolen fragments of Excalibur. Naomi expressed disbelief, asking if it was the same Kokobile who had fought against the biblical god alongside the original Lucifer. Zenobia confirmed this and added that they needed help. The demons were taken aback, and Rius asked what kind of help was needed. Zenobia explained that they couldn't operate in their territory without assistance. The group of demons was surprised, and Rius cleared her throat to respond. She said she would consider it but warned that they would act if any problems arose. With that, both women stood and bowed, thanking her before leaving. Silence enveloped the room as Rius sat on the sofa with Issei's family, the atmosphere heavy with unspoken thoughts. Rius pondered what her next move would be. Naomi looked at Rius with concern. Rius sighed and clarified that she needed to talk to Sona about this tomorrow. After that, everyone went off to do their own things while Naomi headed to her brother's room. She entered to find Issei sleeping peacefully. She approached him and took his hand gently, promising that she would protect him from all harm. Leaning closer, she kissed him on the cheek, just near his lips, before quietly leaving the room, leaving Issei alone. In the beautiful night in the city of Ko, everything was peaceful and calm, except for Rius Gremory, who was in her room with tear-streaked cheeks as she looked at a photo of herself with Issei. She wondered why it hurt so much, placing her hands over her heart. She had never been interested in a boy before, as everyone only saw her for her looks, which frustrated her. She lamented that she had tried so hard for Issei to see her as a woman, but he didn't view her that. However, she knew she couldn't dwell on that now. There were more pressing issues at hand, like the problem with the exorcist girls and the theft of the sacred swords. There was also the looming threat of Kokobile. If she or Sona were to die, a great war would likely ensue, dragging the human world into chaos. This thought gave her a headache, but she was grateful for Naomi's willingness to help, despite the pain Issei's words had caused her. She needed to be serious and prepared to fight. Her thoughts were interrupted when the door opened, and Naomi entered. Seeing Rius in such a state filled her with sympathy. Naomi wondered why Issei had rejected someone as beautiful as Rius. With a sigh, she approached her. She asked how Rius was feeling, to which Rius replied sadly, expressing her deep pain. Tears streamed down her face as she clenched her fists, lamenting that all her efforts to be seen as a woman by Issei had been in vain. Naomi looked at her for a moment, unsure of what to say, as she had never experienced something like this before. She simply moved closer and began to comfort Rius. Meanwhile, Issei was waking up slowly, realizing he was in his room. He sighed and sat up, starting to get dressed. He felt frustrated, tired of pretending. It was annoying that he had been put under a magical sleep spell more than once. He decided not to dwell on it and stood up. Walking to his wardrobe, he changed clothes and then slipped out of the window, making his way away from the house unnoticed. As Issei walked through the dark streets of Ko, he eventually arrived at a house. He sighed as he entered and found Alan sitting and reading a book. Issei acknowledged him and took a seat. Alan greeted him without looking up from his book. Issei asked why he had been called. Alan calmly explained that the leaders were starting to suspect him. Issei asked if Alan knew the reason for their suspicion. Alan mentioned Griselda Corda, confirming that she had taken a photo of Issei while he was healing a man. Issei brushed it off, feeling that he didn't need to worry too much about that. After all, once he revealed himself against the supernatural beings, they would likely come after him. Alan then asked if everyone was questioning whether Issei was capable of killing. Issei felt a bit taken aback. He had already taken many lives. He responded casually, asking if Alan was joking. Alan shook his head, clarifying that he wanted to know if Issei could kill his own family. Issei understood what Alan was referring to. He could eliminate them without feeling guilt or resentment. He felt nothing for them, no hatred, not even love, only indifference. He calmly stated that if they became a hindrance to their work, he would take care of them to ensure they did not interfere with their plans. Alan simply nodded in agreement and handed Issei a vial, explaining that it contained poison from Samel, noting that dragons were immune to any type of magic. Issei took the vial, glanced at it for a moment, then tucked it into his pocket before leaving Alan behind, who returned to his book. Throughout the week, the exorcist had gone to Ko Academy to speak with the other territory manager. However, things did not go well. Zenobia had insulted Asia Argento, calling her a heretic and a demon, which angered everyone in the room. Kiba challenged both girls to a duel, and Naomi also intervened. The battle was brief. Zenobia quickly defeated Kiba. The fight between Naomi and Irina was more interesting, although Naomi merely toyed with Irina, as her attacks had no effect on her. The battle concluded with Naomi as the victor. Zenobia informed Naomi that the White Emperor was awake, which caused Naomi to grimace at the thought of facing him. After leaving the academy, everyone returned to their daily routines until the present, where the girls were at Ko Academy waiting for Kokabeel to appear. In the distance, Issei observed everything calmly while anticipating the fight to begin. A feminine voice called out to him, asking if he was there to watch his sister fight. Issei replied that he wanted to see how she would handle the battle and inquired what Calaworn planned to do, whether she would interfere or wait for the faction meeting. Issei did not respond, continuing to watch the impending fight. Issei was slightly disappointed by how the battle at Ko Academy was unfolding. Akino relentlessly attacked Cerberus with her lightning, utilizing her fallen angel wings, making her strikes powerful and lethal. Asia did her best to heal the injured, while Kaneko easily took down a few Cerberus. Kiba and Zenobia joined the fray, with Kiba seeking revenge by aiming to destroy a sacred sword. Naomi and Rius managed to inflict significant damage on the cadre, which surprised Issei, who kept observing. When he looked toward the barrier, he saw his parents alongside Citri, who was maintaining the barrier. Issei sighed, commenting that the battle was dragging on too long, although it seemed the White Emperor was paying attention. Calaworn, arms crossed, also watched the fight, knowing Kokabeel's power was monstrous but choosing not to interfere unless Issei commanded it. Issei stood up, conjured a black bow from a magic circle, and then created an arrow. Calaworn watched with interest, eager to see what Issei would do next. He aimed the arrow at the combat zone and declared that this would be the last time he helped Naomi. He then instructed Calaworn to inform the others to prepare for the faction meeting before disappearing in a magic circle. At Ko Academy, the battle reached its climax. Kokabeel stood with a few wounds but remained upright, while Naomi and Rius showed no signs of fatigue. Kokabeel expressed his excitement, stating he hadn't had this much fun in a long time, but it was time to end the games. As he prepared to launch a massive spear of light, the magical shield protecting the academy shattered. Draig warned Naomi and the others to take cover. They quickly conjured a magical shield, and Kokabeel failed to react in time. An enormous explosion erupted, sending shockwaves throughout the area, causing several girls from the occult club to be thrown back. The Hyoudou family quickly formed a protective barrier around the academy, creating a deep tremor in the ground. After a few minutes, the tremors subsided. Issei's and Naomi's parents collapsed, exhausted, while inside the explosion, Rius and Naomi bore several burns on their bodies. Meanwhile, Akino was severely injured, and Kiba had been thrown against a tree, suffering a blow to his abdomen. Zenobia was on the brink of death, and Asia was in worse condition, trapped under a rock that crushed her legs and one arm, with debris resting on her shoulder. Thanks to her sacred gear, she was still alive. She wondered who had caused such devastation. Naomi had asked while kneeling beside Rius, who was equally exhausted. They were fortunate to be alive, she said with a smile before collapsing, followed closely by Naomi. Meanwhile, in the distance, the Citri group and the Hyoudou family rushed to help as a white armored figure observed the scene from above. The man in the armor addressed Albion, asking if he had felt the attack. The dragon responded, expressing certainty that whoever launched the attack wanted to send a clear message. He suggested it would be best to leave the area unnoticed. 2 days had passed since Kokobil's attack, and the academy had been rebuilt. Naomi and Rius were extremely tired, while others remained hospitalized in the underworld. During their stay in the hospital, Rius and Naomi received visits from their parents and a few relatives, all concerned about Naomi's health. The entire Hyoudou family was worried about her, and they came to check on her well-being. The only one who did not visit his sister was Issei, whether because he didn't want to or simply didn't care. On the day of the parent-teacher meeting, Rius and Naomi had recovered enough to attend. The Mao, Lucifer, spoke personally with Naomi about the alliance being formed among the 3 great factions. As the meeting began, everyone was prepared, including some members of the Hyoudou family, Naomi Hyoudou, Issei's aunt, and Liko Hyoudou, Issei's cousin, along with their parents and grandparents. They all waited for the meeting to commence. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Issei stood calmly, surveying the area. Behind him were Calaworn and Karna, both holding a beautiful woman with dark skin and striking features, who was injured and wearing glasses. Issei asked Kateria Leviathan if she had made her decision. She defiantly replied that she would rather die than serve a miserable human. Issei, unfazed, accepted her choice and swiftly ended her life without hesitation. Afterward, he sheathed his katana and turned his gaze toward Ko Academy, dressed in a formal black suit, a raven perched on his shoulder, undisturbed by its presence. He prepared for what he called a grand spectacle, his eyes glowing golden as he walked calmly toward the academy, leaving a trail of defeated demons and angels behind him. The faction meeting reached a consensus, and everyone was at peace, with no one daring to disrupt the harmony. The Hyoudou family was genuinely happy with how things had turned out, especially Naomi, who felt relieved about her younger brother Issei's safety. However, an unsettling feeling lingered in the air, as if something ominous was about to unfold. Suddenly, everyone in the occult club vanished and reappeared in the academy courtyard. Rius looked around in confusion, questioning what had just happened. Everyone went on high alert, anticipating an unexpected event. The barrier protecting the school began to crack, sending chills through everyone present. As the barrier shattered completely, neither the leaders nor the other demons, including the Hyoudou family members, understood what was happening. A cold breeze swept through the area, causing shivers among the crowd. Then, footsteps echoed ominously, prompting the faction leaders to take defensive positions. A voice broke the tension, greeting the leaders and catching everyone off guard. Among them, Naomi and the white-haired current emperor stood serious, anticipating the appearance of the figure from the shadows. Suddenly, Abbadon Lucifer emerged, dressed formally and wearing the same mask he had used during the attack on the Mage Association. The atmosphere turned serious as Azazel and Serchest prepared to confront the one who had harmed their friends and allies, while Naomi was ready to retaliate against the individual responsible for the deaths at the Mage Association. The Hyoudou family glared at Abbadon, taking combat stances. Abbadon calmly stated that he had not come to fight but to speak as civilized beings. Serchest demanded to know his purpose. Abbadon casually walked to the side, hands behind his back, and replied that he was simply curious. Azazel pressed further, asking what he wanted. Abbadon looked at them for a moment before speaking about his belief in the existence of the soul and his desire to perform acts that the deceased would have wished to accomplish. He explained that he wanted to save the world from its pathetic end, acknowledging their struggle to integrate into society and expressing a desire to start anew. Naomi, intrigued, asked him to clarify what he meant by starting from scratch. Abbadon smiled slightly, ready to elaborate on his intentions. Serchest asked seriously if the other intended to commit genocide or sought to rule everything. Abdon replied calmly that he did not wish to dominate or govern. Michael then inquired about Abdon's true desires. Abdon mentioned that he believed he had made himself clear. Naomi, looking at Abdon, questioned why he had taken the lives of several innocent people and attacked the church. Abdon expressed his disdain for those who questioned his actions, stating that it took more than courage to interrogate him. He explained that he simply wanted something the church possessed, which he deemed unimportant to them since they knew nothing of God. Michael, feeling uneasy, asked what Abdon meant by that. Abdon, with a hint of amusement, suggested that it was a question for Michael to ponder. Naomi then asked if he felt any remorse for the lives he had ended. Abdon sighed and stated that he never regretted his actions, questioning if Naomi regretted leaving behind what was important to her. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted to a heavy silence. Naomi, along with her parents and the rest of the Hyoudou family, stood frozen. An albino stepped forward, expressing his anger and intent to strike Abdon for what he had done to his friend, Tobio, while covering himself with a white armor. Abdon, amused, encouraged the albino, named Valle, to attack. Valle charged at Abdon with incredible speed, using his sacred gear to deliver a powerful blow to Abdon's face. However, Abdon's eyes merely glimmered, and Valle soon realized that Abdon had his palm open against his abdomen. With the resounding crack, Valle's armor shattered, and he received a forceful strike to the stomach that sent him flying into the wall of the academy. The onlookers watched in shock as Abdon stood unfazed, not a drop of sweat on him. They quickly readied themselves for a fight. Abdon remarked calmly that it seemed like too much for just one person. Naomi was the first to attack, followed closely by Rius. Naomi executed several powerful moves, attempting to strike Abdon. However, he moved with remarkable speed, grabbing her arms and launching her toward Rius, sending both of them flying. The leaders, Azazel and Michael, prepared to confront Abdon, quickly conjuring spears of light while Serchest charged his fists with destructive power. Serchest launched a powerful right punch, but Abbadon easily dodged it and delivered a strong knee strike to his stomach. He then evaded a move from Azazel, grabbing his head and slamming him into the ground, creating a small crater. Michael unleashed several light spears, but Abbadon swiftly dodged them, leaping into the sky to kick Michael. Michael managed to raise his arms to shield himself as he fell to the ground. Abbadon calmly mentioned that he would send Michael back to heaven in just 5 minutes as he charged at him. Suddenly, a wall of ice appeared where the Mao was attacking Abbadon with several ice spikes. Abbadon managed to dodge a few spikes, but he received a powerful blow to the back from Valle, who was bleeding from his mouth. Quickly, Valle and Seraphil positioned themselves beside each other, observing Abbadon emerge with his outfit slightly damaged as he brushed off the dust. Abbadon's eyes glimmered as he looked at the two. Both individuals launched themselves at Abbadon while Azazel and Serchest regained their composure, exchanging nods. Abbadon blocked and dodged each attack aimed at him. However, Valle made a misstep, and Abbadon seized the opportunity, redirecting an ice spike toward Valle, which pierced her abdomen, causing her to spit out some blood. The Leviathan demon widened her eyes in shock but was met with a powerful uppercut to the chin, followed by a strong right punch to her abdomen and a knee strike to her face. With a crack, Seraphil's nose broke from the knee strike. Reacting just in time, Abbadon managed to evade a powerful blow from Michael, countering with a kick to Michael's back. The sound of breaking bones echoed throughout the area as Abbadon wasted no time, taking hold of Michael's hair and delivering a crushing blow to his spine, worsening his injuries. The angel's cries of pain echoed around them as Abbadon turned him around, conjured a dagger, and plunged it into his abdomen. He stated that he had warned Michael he would send him back to heaven in 5 minutes, delivering a powerful uppercut that sent the angel crashing to the ground, gravely injured. At that moment, Abbadon was struck from behind by Serchest, eliciting a groan of pain. He turned around just as Azazel appeared, clad in a heavy armor, and landed a powerful blow that sent Abbadon flying. Naomi and Rius appeared just in time to intercept Abbadon mid-flight. Rius, with her fists charged with destructive power, landed a powerful strike, while Naomi charged a potent dragon shot. She shouted the name of her attack as she unleashed a powerful energy blast toward Abbadon. A massive explosion erupted, leaving everyone in shock, unable to move or speak. Naomi wondered why Abbadon suddenly seemed so vulnerable. Until that moment, he had been dominating the battle, but everything changed in an instant. As the smoke cleared, everyone's eyes widened in disbelief. Where Abbadon should have been, there was only Valle, his armor completely destroyed. A voice called from behind them, prompting everyone to turn quickly. Before Serchest and Azazel could react, Abbadon seized their faces and slammed them into the ground, creating a massive crater. He declared that it was time to begin the second act as he adjusted his gloves. Naomi and Rius quickly took their stances and charged at Abbadon, who stood with his hands in his pockets, waiting for their attack. As they got close, he vanished, surprising both women, only to reappear behind them with a dagger, causing them to spill a significant amount of blood. Rius and Naomi fell to their knees. Drake warned Naomi to be careful as she opened her eyes wide, noticing a large scar between her ears. Naomi quickly regained her footing, and Rius did the same, both glaring at Abbadon, who still held the dagger in his hand. They resumed their defensive stances, and Serchest and Azazel positioned themselves beside them. Abbadon calmly asked what they were waiting for. Serchest and Azazel were the first to launch their attacks, followed closely by the girls. Abbadon's eyes glowed golden once again. Azazel created a spear of light, while Serchest formed a sword with his destructive power. The sound of clashing weapons filled the air as Abbadon struggled to block the attacks from both leaders. Naomi had gathered enough power to touch Rius's back, transferring a significant boost to her. Rius's eyes began to glow crimson as she unleashed a portion of her aura, causing the ground beneath her to crack. She launched a powerful magical attack aimed directly at Serchest and Azazel. Abbadon was on the verge of escaping the predicament, but both Serchest and Azazel caught him, preventing his escape. A gigantic explosion shook the area as the Hyoudou and the Citri group formed an almost impenetrable barrier. After a few minutes, the chaos began to settle, though a thick curtain of smoke still lingered in the air. A voice emerged from the smoke, remarking that the attack had indeed hurt. Everyone's eyes widened in disbelief as they recognized the voice. Gradually, the smoke began to clear, revealing the bodies of Serchest and Azazel lying on the ground, bloodied and motionless, with a pair of black boots nearby. As the smoke dispersed further, a figure became visible, showcasing a strong physique adorned with a few noticeable tattoos. The crowd soon recognized the familiar chestnut hair and hazel eyes with golden flecks, along with earrings that marked the individual. The Hyoudou family, along with Naomi and Rius, were particularly astonished. Standing amidst the dissipating smoke was none other than Issei. The parents of the chestnut-haired young man, alongside Naomi and Rius, exclaimed his name in shock. No one could believe what was happening. Issei's parents were completely stunned, unable to move. Naomi shared their disbelief, struggling to articulate her. Thus, she wanted to deny the reality before her, repeating to herself that he was not her brother, that this was just a nightmare. Rius stood frozen, her body unmoving, her legs trembling as her heart broke at the sight of Issei standing there. The atmosphere was eerily calm, silence reigning as no one dared to move. Serchest and Azazel were unconscious, Michael too injured to fight, Seraphil was healing her wounds, and Valle observed the scene, leaning against a tree. Valle noted that the boy was dangerous, his power nearly on par with the Mao Lucifer, yet there was something familiar about it. Albion commented to his host, who was watching the unfolding events with frustration and anger, struggling to move his legs due to the devastating attack from his rival. Valle cursed under his breath, feeling exhausted. Issei stood calmly, his expression serene as he placed his hands in his pockets. He began to speak, capturing everyone's attention. He declared that he wouldn't need his mask anymore, tossing it to the ground. Naomi watched her brother, her mind racing with questions about how he knew about the supernatural and why he was acting this way. Issei completed her unspoken question, explaining that he had learned about the supernatural after nearly dying at the hands of a rogue demon. The revelation left the Hyoudou family in shock. Naomi could hardly believe what she had just heard. She expressed that their intention had always been to protect him from the supernatural. Issei responded, sharing a harsh truth. It was incredibly difficult to protect someone, often resulting in losing more than one could save. The Hyoudou family quickly grasped the weight of his words, realizing that their desire to shield Issei had led to neglect. Issei confronted his parents, asking at what cost they wished to protect him. He revealed that when they began to distance themselves, he felt increasingly alone, and the desperation of their absence consumed him. He had resorted to lowering his grades and disobeying them, hoping for their attention, but all he received in return were scoldings and disappointment. Issei's parents lowered their gazes in shame. Miki shed tears while Goro clenched his fists. Issei then turned to Naomi, revealing the resentment he had harbored towards her during their childhood, admitting how he had wished her harm. He took a deep breath and continued, explaining that figures like Cain were often seen as evil, yet they acted out of necessity to survive. He believed that the supernatural beings might view him as the villain for having taken innocent lives, but he challenged them to consider whether they were truly any different. Issei was mentioned, and Seraphil managed to hear him, just like Michael, who was unable to move due to the pain, followed by Naomi and the others. Issei spoke about the dark past of the church, revealing how it had once harmed innocent people, punishing those with different beliefs, all in the name of God. Michael clenched his fists at the harsh truth. Issei continued, expressing that both fallen angels and demons viewed humans as weak and foolish, often causing chaos in the world. He glanced at Azazel and Surzek, who were on the ground. Silence enveloped the group, with Naomi crying quietly and Rius averting her gaze. Issei stated that sometimes good people made poor choices, which didn't make them bad. It simply made them human, something the supernatural beings struggled to understand. Naomi wished to speak up, to tell her brother to stop this madness, but her body wouldn't respond. Miki pleaded with Issei, asking for another chance to mend their family, expressing her deep sorrow. Naomi and Goro looked at Miki, who was clearly the most affected among them. Issei's response was heart-wrenching, stating that his only family were the two who had departed, leaving everyone speechless. Naomi looked at her brother, wishing she hadn't heard those words, hoping it was just a bad dream from which they would all awaken to find happiness at the dinner table. The cruel reality was undeniable, even as she and her family tried to deny it. Rius spoke up, urging Issei to trust her, assuring him that he didn't have to fight anymore and that nothing would happen to him. However, she doubted that Issei could escape the consequences of his actions, which were well known in the supernatural world. Issei replied dryly, reminding her never to trust too easily, as even the devil had once been an angel. Rius fell silent as Issei shifted the conversation, asking Naomi if she remembered the times when she used to laugh innocently. A great storm raged over Berlin, Germany, where people hurried to their homes. The streets were busy with cars and important figures, but in a 5-star building, 2 individuals were present, one seated at a chessboard and the other standing, gazing out at the city. The boy with white hair and blue eyes, dressed in formal attire, remarked that the day seemed special. Issei, moving a chess piece, inquired why he thought so. The boy, known as Karna, turned to him, sensing something interesting was about to happen. Issei moved a bishop, resting his chin on his hand while contemplating a pawn. He noted that they had made their first move and now needed to maneuver their pieces wisely. Karna commented on Issei's strategic thinking, acknowledging his awareness of humanity's darker side. Issei calmly stated that he understood the worst of humanity, which was why he expected nothing from others and felt indifferent about their deaths. Karna remarked on the difficulty of changing human nature, to which Issei replied that it was never easy to change anything in a world rife with corruption and violence. Karna raised an eyebrow, intrigued by Issei's perspective. Issei mentioned that while humans made mistakes, correcting them allowed for growth and learning. Karna acknowledged this insight, and Issei then asked if Karna had heard anything about Cao Cao. Karna replied that they hadn't learned anything about him yet, prompting Issei to suggest that they should trust him and that Karna should return home to avoid raising suspicion. After their discussion, Karna vanished in a magical circle, leaving Issei alone. He donned a jacket and stepped outside the building, walking through the city while attracting glances from several women, though he paid them no mind. Suddenly, someone appeared beside him, teasing him about his charm. Issei, with a playful tone, remarked that he couldn't help being handsome, likening it to a curse. He then asked Cao Cao what was happening. Cao Cao sighed, mentioning that things were getting lively and that Office was distracted by curiosity about Hakuryuku and Issei's sister. Issei listened intently, then inquired about Rizavim. Cao Cao noted that Issei was still on the sidelines but was undoubtedly being sought after to join their ranks. As they walked, he asked Issei what he planned to do now that he was being pursued not only by factions but also by the Cow Brigade. Issei remained silent, gazing at the park before letting out a sigh and looking up at the sky. He expressed his determination to eliminate anyone who stood in his way, his eyes shining with a golden hue. At the Ko Academy, Naomi was walking through the halls toward the infirmary, feeling annoyed at the thought of Chisato, the person who spent the most time with her brother. Upon reaching the infirmary, she knocked on the door, which opened with a simple invitation to enter. Inside, she found Chisato sitting cross-legged and reading a book. Chisato greeted Naomi with a calm demeanor, curious about her identity. She noticed the resemblance to Issei and felt the power of the boosted gear emanating from her. Naomi introduced herself as Issei's sister, feeling a twinge of sadness as she did so. Chisato commented on how Issei had never mentioned having a sister, leading Naomi to reflect on her brother's solitary nature. As Naomi sat down, she accepted a cup of tea from Chisato, who encouraged her to share her thoughts. Naomi hesitated but eventually opened up about her life with Issei, recounting how he had revealed himself to the factions while omitting certain details. Chisato listened intently, aware that Naomi was not sharing the full truth. Feeling overwhelmed, Naomi fought back tears, realizing the sacrifices she had made to protect her brother, even at the cost of their relationship. Chisato, sensing Naomi's distress, offered her a piece of advice: to try to move on from Issei and focus on her own life. She reassured Naomi that there was still hope for their relationship in the future, acknowledging Issei's struggles and the journey ahead for both of them. As Chisato tended to Naomi's injuries, she encouraged her to live for herself rather than waiting for Issei. Naomi smiled sadly, grateful for Chisato's kindness, and left the infirmary with a heavy heart. After Naomi departed, Chisato opened a small box she had been holding, revealing a photo of herself with Issei, both smiling in a park. A fond smile crossed her face as she recalled Issei's words about saving her not out of logic but from emotion. She sighed and tucked the photo away, thinking to herself that, to her, Issei would always be her hero. In the city of Ko, a beautiful morning began with people chatting and walking, some accompanying their children. Outside the city, in a clearing in the woods, 3 boys around 14 years old gathered. Among them were Issei and his 2 closest friends, Brian and Joni. Their bond was strong, akin to brotherhood, forged through shared experiences and challenges. Their friendship had blossomed after Issei faced a difficult time following a championship, leading him into a depression. It was in the park where he met Brian and Joni, and from that day forward, they became inseparable. Growing up together, they often found themselves in mischief, stealing apples and treats, always managing to escape the vendors. Issei, Brian, and Joni were the best friends he had ever known, and they cherished their time together. As they enjoyed their day, Issei remarked on how great the day was, bringing smiles to his friends' faces. Issei sat on a rock, reflecting on the day. Johnny laughed, expressing that it had indeed been an exciting day. Brian chimed in, recalling the thrill of escaping from a dog, specifically a pit bull, which had provided them with quite the adrenaline rush. The friends shared a hearty laugh, remembering the wild chase they had just experienced. It was undoubtedly the biggest marathon of their lives. As they gazed at the beautiful lake, Johnny spoke up, catching the attention of Issei and Brian. He wondered what dreams they had, considering they were about to enter the academy, and both Issei and Brian were uncertain about their paths. Johnny then revealed his aspiration to become a musician, wanting to share that journey with his best friends. Brian found the idea amusing and asked Issei for his thoughts. Issei responded that it would be incredible to be a famous singer, especially with his friends by his side. Johnny stood up, looking at his friends, and they all formed a circle, placing their fists together in solidarity. It was official, they would become famous musicians. Brian excitedly mentioned the wealth they would earn, allowing him to help his younger brother. Johnny added that he would finally leave their stinky city and have fun, even dreaming of marrying a beautiful model. Issei remained quiet for a moment, and his friends awaited his response. He smiled and said that someone had to look out for them, emphasizing that he would never abandon his friends, who were like brothers to him. The trio cheered joyfully, laughing and chatting, with Issei wearing a smile he thought he had lost during his childhood. Later, the friends exited a tattoo shop, where Johnny had gotten a crown tattoo on his neck, and Brian had a tattoo of a tongue on his. Issei sported a skull tattoo on his calf. They all shared a common tattoo, the name of their band, Bad Boy. They laughed at the name and decided to head to the party that night. However, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. What was supposed to be a fun party turned into a horrifying scene. Issei was confronted with a gruesome sight: bodies of children their age, all lifeless and dismembered. Brian's voice broke through the chaos as he urged Issei to run. He grabbed Issei's hand, and Johnny was right beside them. Terror filled their faces as they were pursued by a monstrous figure. Fear and desperation coursed through them, their hearts racing and legs trembling. They paused, realizing they had to fight for survival. Brian picked up some bats and handed one to each of his friends. They exchanged determined glances, knowing they had no choice but to stand their ground. A chilling voice echoed, taunting them about their weapons. Suddenly, a massive creature loomed before them, rising slowly. It had long hair, 4 eyes, sharp teeth, and claws instead of hands. The friends trembled with fear, but they stood ready. Then, in unison, they screamed as the nightmare unfolded before. Brian was being strangled by the monstrous woman, while Johnny lay injured with a wound in his abdomen, and Issei was bleeding from his head against the wall. It was a pity, she thought. She had expected more entertainment, but she had to admit that they had earned her respect, so she would end their lives as painlessly as possible. She looked down at the bloodied brown-haired man and spoke, asking him what it felt like to be kneeling before a being he had considered mere scum. In front of him lay several mutilated bodies, all lifeless. He spat blood as he glared at her, calling her a worthless monster for attacking them when they had done nothing to provoke her. The brown-haired man simply sighed heavily and looked directly at the nearly unconscious man beneath him. Sometimes, he thought, people didn't think. Instead of cooperating and engaging in civilized dialogue, they attacked without considering who they were facing. They didn't hesitate to strike, did they? He questioned as he grabbed the man by his hair and lifted him to meet his gaze. They were all the same first fists, then answers, or was he mistaken? The man stared for a moment, his eyes shifting to a golden hue. He was momentarily entranced by those golden eyes until the brown-haired man released him, causing his head to collide with the ground, snapping him out of his trance. "I have what I need now. Thank you for the information," he said calmly as he prepared to leave. "Wait, what did you do to me?" The question made him pause, and he turned slightly to look back at him. "What did you do to me?" he repeated. "What a nuisance." "Kala, would you do the honors?" he asked, and the beautiful woman, without mercy, decapitated the man. "All right, let's move on. We need to leave," he instructed. The small group followed him as they exited the temple and began to distance themselves before being teleported to the top of some mountains. "All right, we've arrived at our next target," he said, looking down at a small clan filled with families. "It's time. I want you to infiltrate and gather everything, and ensure that no member of the Himejima clan detects you. Understood?" "Yes," they all shouted before simply vanishing. The brown-haired man placed his hands behind his back near his waist and observed everything from above, focusing on a specific direction where a beautiful woman with long black hair tied in a ponytail stood. She had a remarkable figure and bore a resemblance to Akino. "It's been a while, old friend," he remarked as he watched her from the heights. Meanwhile, in the city of Ko, several girls were enjoying themselves, while some boys hung out with their friends. Naomi was spending time with none other than the school nurse, Hasegawa Chisato, during their lunch break. After their previous conversation and learning that Chisato knew her brother quite well, Naomi decided to spend time with her. However, it was challenging given the state of the supernatural world and the events occurring around them. Many attacks had taken place in various locations, with more than half attributed to her brother and his team. They still didn't know exactly what he and his group of criminals were searching for. Now, they found themselves in the infirmary of Ko Academy, enjoying their free time together as if they were good friends. "How are things in the club, Naomi-san?" Hasegawa Chisato asked, looking at the brown-haired girl. Naomi set her food down and met her gaze. "Well, everything is quite calm now, thankfully. The girls are doing well." Rius finally returned to the academy after her incident. Following Issei's revelation, Rius had fallen into a deep and painful depression. It wasn't just that the person who rejected her broke her heart. He was also the one who attacked and eliminated all the mages from the association. "I see," Chisato replied calmly. "Well, I would love to continue talking with you, but there's something I must do, Tomi-san," she said with a small smile as she stood up. "All right, Hasegawa-sensei. I'll see you later," Naomi said as she stood and bid farewell to Chisato. As Naomi walked toward the occult club, she moved calmly without any issues. "I still say that woman gives me a bad feeling," Drake thought in Naomi's mind. "Drake? Why do you say that?" Days had passed since Naomi's conversation with Hasegawa Chisato. Drake had mentioned that the woman was not entirely normal, but Naomi had never been able to determine why, as she tried to sense her aura but found nothing. In fact, Hasegawa Chisato was a completely mysterious woman. Pushing those thoughts aside, she arrived at the occult club, where she found Rius sitting at her desk alongside all her pieces, with Graphia beside her. "I see you're feeling better, Rius," Naomi said with a smile, looking at the red-haired girl, who also smiled and nodded. "So, why did you call me to the club?" Well, Graphia will explain," Rius said, looking at the silver-haired woman, who stepped forward. "I have a message from Surzek-sama for Naomi-san and the rest of the nobility," she announced, capturing everyone's attention. "We have found a possible location for Issei-san." An uncomfortable silence filled the room. In a bar, a young man with black hair and gray eyes was tidying up the place. He appeared to be in his 20s. This was Tobio Ikuse, one of the best soldiers of Grigori. In his mind, he still recalled that battle against Abbadon. "Why?" Tobio asked, injured and facing a calm Abbadon. Why do you do all this? What do you gain from it?" he pressed again. Abbadon sighed and looked at Tobio. "Tell me something," accused Tobio. "What do you think of the world?" "What kind of question is that?" "It's something that intrigues me. I want to know how you see this world," Abbadon said. "Do you know how I see it?" "How?" Tobio asked, looking at him. "I see a dark world, a world tainted by supernatural beings and by us humans," Abbadon replied, while Tobio looked at him doubtfully. "How did we end up like this? We are corrupted in body and mind. They steal our freedom. In the end, we find ourselves lost," Tobio thought as he looked at Abbadon. If anyone knew how this would end, no one would step onto the battlefield. What did Abbadon mean by that? Tobio sought to understand. But there is always something that pushes you to take a step into this hell. Most of the time, it's not by your own will. Suddenly, Tobio had a vague memory. Your surroundings compel you to act. But the hell of those who push themselves is their destiny. Look beyond that hell. It may be hope or it may be a new hell. Only those who keep moving forward discover it, Abbadon said, then turned to Tobio. "Now tell me, Tobio, what drives you to continue advancing in this hell?" Tobio looked at his left and right hands. "What motivates me to keep moving forward?" He pondered. He would continue. The silence reigned in the small temple where two individuals stood. One was a beautiful woman with long black hair and striking red eyes, resembling Akino. The other was a teenager with brown hair and brown eyes, his body adorned with various tattoos. The teenager calmly asked how much longer she would remain silent. He reminded her that they had known each other since childhood and that he would never harm her. She crossed her arms and expressed her skepticism, stating that given his actions in the world, it was hard to believe him. Issei acknowledged her concerns, expressing relief at the changes within the clan. He glanced around the temple, noting the need for transformation and the abandonment of outdated beliefs, though not all of them. He mentioned the Himejima clan, one of the most important in the supernatural world, serving the Shinto gods, especially Amaterasu, while also being filled with assassins. Susuka remained silent, her gaze hardening. Issei, with a small smile, urged her to understand what he meant, suggesting they discuss Shuri Himejima and Akino Himejima, whom he referred to as the disgrace of the clan. Susuka narrowed her eyes, realizing he was aware of the truth. He continued, revealing his knowledge of the clan's past, how her father and the other members had waited for Betrayal to leave before attacking and attempting to kill both women. He tilted his head slightly, questioning why she had let Akino go. Susuka did not respond immediately. She focused on organizing her thoughts about that fateful night. It had been around 10 years since Akino Himejima, a hybrid of fallen angel and human, was born to Shuri Himejima and one of the Grigori's cadres, Betrayal. The birth of Akino was seen as a sacrilege within the Himejima clan. Even more shocking was the fact that it was caused by the daughter of one of the clan's leaders, who tragically ended her own daughter's life with her own hands, only to then attempt to harm her granddaughter. Issei smiled playfully, observing how Susuka regarded him with a cold stare. He asked, curious about her situation, why it had to be her. Susuka replied that she didn't care if the clan hated her for her past actions. She would do it all over again without hesitation. Issei nodded, settling onto the ground, and inquired if she had taken any action against the members of her family's council. Susuka sighed, admitting she hadn't made much progress, but insisted that changes were necessary within the Himejima clan. She doubted this was of any interest to him. Issei confirmed that it was indeed of interest, as her clan possessed something precious he was searching for, the weapons blessed by God. Susuka narrowed her eyes, questioning why he wanted them, doubting their usefulness. Issei corrected her, stating that God's blessings were powerful and capable of saving the world, and he knew her clan had one hidden away. A man dressed in a black kimono expressed his impatience, wondering why they were taking so long, but received no response. Suddenly he was shocked to see his companion's head separate from his body, blood splattering everywhere. Before he could scream for help, his own head exploded. A male voice, filled with amusement, remarked on the entertainment of the scene as he approached the entrance. Susuka stood up, coldly asking how Issei had found out. He sighed, revealing that he wasn't foolish enough to be unaware of the interesting items her clan possessed, which could be very useful for war. Suddenly, two guards spoke, noting that they should hurry to receive something. Cao Cao appeared behind them, wearing a mask that concealed his face and carrying a long spear on his shoulder. One guard demanded to know who he was, taking a defensive stance. Cao Cao simply introduced himself as their friendly neighbor and assassin. The tension in the room was palpable as Susuka and Issei exchanged serious glances, a bird landing on Susuka's shoulder. Issei, bored, questioned if they really had to do this. Susuka replied that she didn't care about his plans and didn't want to fight him, but she felt compelled to stop him herself. Issei understood, extending his left hand as a circle of strange pentagrams began to form. He lamented that it had to end this way, but there was no turning back. He drew what appeared to be the hilt of an invincible weapon, unsheathing it like a sword as he faced Susuka, who prepared for his move. Without hesitation, she launched a magical fire attack aimed at defeating him easily. Issei merely sighed, dismissing the attack as pathetic. His eyes glowed golden, and suddenly, everything around him turned gray. Standing firm, he walked through the fire unscathed, stopping directly in front of Susuka. He lifted her chin with his hand, expressing regret as he directed the blade toward her abdomen, stating he didn't want to deal with more problems later. With that, he moved the blade into her without remorse. Time resumed its normal pace as the magical fire attack collided with the wall. Susuka's eyes widened as she felt something pierce her abdomen. Looking down, she saw only Issei's fist, surrounded by a strange wind energy. Blood escaped her lips as she met his gaze with a smile, bringing her hand to her left cheek and calling him foolish. She then leaned in to kiss him directly. Issei, unfazed by the blood, reciprocated the kiss until she finally collapsed to the ground, unconscious. Without a word, he stood up, determined to finish what he had started. Outside the temple, loud noises erupted as the screams of people filled the air. Issei glanced back at Sasuke's body on the ground before walking toward the temple's exit. The Himejima clan was in chaos, with many members fighting against large numbers of renegade demons and several elves who showed no hesitation in killing anyone who stood in their way. A man, calm and with a wicked grin, taunted his opponents, questioning if that was all they could do. While one of his hands gripped a member of the Himejima clan, the man smirked, revealing his sharp teeth. He taunted his captive, urging him to fight back, claiming it would be more entertaining that way. Without needing any magic, he squeezed, and the man's head burst, sending a spray of blood. The man sighed, expressing his disappointment and declaring that this mission would be much easier than anticipated. Chao, standing behind him, warned him not to get too confident, reminding him that they had wasted enough time and needed to leave since they had gathered everything necessary for the peace. The man calmly replied that there was no stronghold in this area. Chao cautioned him to avoid dragging everyone into his whims, knowing how dangerous it could be when he got angry. With that final warning, Chao was the first to leave, leaving the man surrounded by several members of the Himejima family. Joe, cracking his knuckles, declared that he was ready for more action and asked to be entertained. A male voice shouted about problems as he burst into a grand hall where a throne stood in the center. Odin, intrigued, asked what was happening. The soldier reported that the biblical factions had formed an alliance and that there were multiple reports from Heimdall about a large group of terrorists gathered in Midgard. Odin stroked his beard, his good eye fixed on the guard. He instructed him to call for his sons, Thor and Loki. As the guard quickly stood to leave, Odin sensed another presence and called out to Ophis. Suddenly, a Gothic-looking girl appeared, observing the All-Father. Odin calmly inquired about her presence. Ophis simply wanted to pass through, her response short and to the point. He asked if he could pose a question, and she nodded. He wanted to know what she aimed to gain from her actions. Ophis tilted her head slightly, stating that she sought only to regain her silence, revealing no emotions. She then questioned why Odin seemed so weak. Odin acknowledged her observation with a smile, admitting that he was indeed growing weaker with the passing years. Ophis approached him, offering one of her serpents, but Odin declined, indicating it was time for him to rest and regain his strength. He sighed, only to realize that Ophis had vanished. Shaking his head, he settled back into his throne and gazed at the ceiling. A voice interrupted his thoughts, asking if he had called for them. Odin looked down to see a tall, red-haired man around 35 years old, carrying a massive hammer on his shoulder. Thor, the man, informed Odin that he had not seen Loki, especially after hearing rumors about Loki's suspicious behavior amidst the biblical factions. Thor noticed Odin narrowing his eyes and asked if something was amiss. Odin sighed and asked Thor about the rumors of a terrorist group forming in the shadows. Thor claimed he had just learned of this and inquired about the situation. Odin instructed him to keep an eye on all the warriors and, before Thor could ask more, he advised him to prepare for a potential war. To be continued.